And welcome to a very messed up intro of the Comic Book Chronicles.
I'm giving Roddy Cat some time to fix whatever he's working on with extended applause.
Well, there's nothing I can do about that now. It is what it is. But I am your host, Roddy Cat. You can find me at Roddy Cat on Twitter. You can also find me at News Need on Twitter. CB Caps on Instagram.
Come up with a better alternative.
Yeah, I know. And the man you just heard, the man with the sound effects, is probably going to get me killed one of these days. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, you know what? I could probably think of worse ones to pull, but we won't even go there. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
What's up, everybody?
So jealous. He's got that. But he's from Brooklyn. What are you gonna do? You just can't deny it. When the planet speaks, you gotta answer.
You got it.
Not with us tonight is PCN_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and his umbrella site therein. And of course, the Osiris of this ish, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter. That is the Comic Book Chronicles account on Twitter. The KLIQ Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQ and thekliqnation.com. And of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. There was something I forgot to do prior to this, but you know what? We're gonna see if we're gonna skirt this. As normal, you can find this here program on the podcast network, CSPN. That's Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And you can also find us on Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts. And one of these days, I'm going to have to stop doing one of the other. Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Because iTunes is dead. Long live iTunes, or whatever the hell they're doing over there right now. We come to you live every Thursday night, which is something I sometimes neglect saying at the top of the show, except when we have movie protocol or the like, which we will be possibly talking about later on. 9:30ish p.m. Thursday Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time, whichever it is. But as we will do, and we tend to do, we're going to get into this week's books, starting with Amazing Spider-Man number 32.
Right, so we are coming off of the cliffhanger ending of the previous issue that revealed, spoiler alert, that one Miguel O'Hara, a.k.a. Spider-Man of 2099, is back in the present in his old costume.
So he did. So I wasn't crazy. He did have a different costume.
It was white and red.
Right. Okay. So I never really read that last volume.
When they tried to relaunch, when they tried to relaunch the book with Miguel O'Hara in the present.
Right.
He had adventures in the present in the wake of Spider-Verse, and they gave him a new suit, but eventually sent him back to the future. And exactly. And they restored him to his former status quo. But in this issue, we see that his return to our time has set off a seeming chain reaction of events with Roxxon, because it's Roxxon.
Yeah, his whole origin is tied with that group. Yeah, and not to get ahead of it, but apparently he's pretty much in this issue well, because he came back a couple of issues ago, but because they kind of veered off for Absolute Carnage, they're gonna, unless they brought it up then, during those 2 issues, but I doubt it. They kind of veered away from that, and then we're coming back to it now.
Oh, I think that's what I'm remembering because I blocked out Absolute Carnage in my memory. Oh no!
Hell surprise on that one, because there was a book out this week, but yeah. So yeah, but he's back and got himself into a spot of trouble, and like I said, not wanting to go directly to the end, but kind of found himself in a way at the end of the book, at the end of this issue.
Absolutely.
To which I'm like, well, we've seen, like, is this like we've seen things that happen to Spider-Folk before of similar things, but given his predicament going, during the midst of this issue, I'm like, is everything okay? I guess obviously we will find out next issue, but like, that doesn't seem like that went all right for him.
No, not in the least. Not in the least. And with regards to the title character of the book, amazing Spider-Man, we actually see him do a lot of stuff in this issue, unlike the Absolute Carnage crossovers. We have Spidey interacting again with a character that Nick Spencer has introduced into this title after she reappeared in the Friendly Neighborhood title. Which is not the Friendly Neighborhood, the Spectacular title that predates the Friendly Neighborhood title.
Which is interesting because I know, like, there have been books that have been like, well, hey, there's certain things happening in this corner of the universe with, especially with that, specifically that Doctor Doom book from last week, and a couple other places where a specific place where this character's from gets mentioned. Which you'll find that like there's another reference to another character, that kind of stuff happens. So you feel like there are seeds of things happening, but in this issue, this character comes back up with a nice little entrance, as this character tends to do when they pop in.
Right. And I've rung the spoiler bell, so we can absolutely refer to this character by name. We are referring to Teresa Parker, Peter's sister.
Oh, nice. Very funny. No, what we are really talking about, although she does appear in this book, we are talking about one Silver Sable.
That's another person that is returning from the depths of wherever they've been.
Right, but that's who I was talking about, because
So with regards to what's happening in that part of the story, there was some great banter between Spidey and one of the villains in this Teresa Parker storyline.
I'm not familiar with that person.
He is a long-standing, very minor villain who's doing exactly what he has done in the past, very much espionage-related things. And if I'm not mistaken, he used to run around in a purple jumpsuit, but I could be wrong. I'd have to take a look, maybe Google that. But it was pretty.
Why does Paladin have to be the only one?
Right. It was pretty fun to see Patrick Gleason. Welcome, Patrick Gleason, to the Amazing Spider-Man art team. And it was fun to see Mr. Gleason basically have a ton of fun in his fight choreography in this issue.
Yeah, the one thing I thought was I didn't think about it until it got to you're speaking of the banter between Spidey and the Foreigner.
Yes.
That first panel when they first started talking, where Spidey's kind of walking away and he's got his head kind of tilted. I was like, hey, what's going on? And that's kind of weird. I mean, it's not weird for Spidey, but it's also weird to see because it doesn't normally happen like that. So I kind of had to look and say, all right, Ollie's not doing this book anymore. So, and also the if you read to the end of the book, there's a nice little welcome to Patrick in the letters page.
Yes.
Or hitting the letters page along with some stuff there, stuff for the future. Hint, ha.
Yes, exactly. That's Nick Lowe. Is that Nick Lowe or is that Nick Spencer?
That was, I want to say that was Nick Lowe.
Okay, because it's only signed Nick, so I'm
Right.
guessing it's
because he mentioned Spencer, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
I believe that's right, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to assume it's
Yes, from editorial. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so and that, you know, along with being a welcome to Patrick, it also, like I said, there's not necessarily foreshadowing, just mentioned some stuff that is going to be happening in the Spidey books,
Right.
Upcoming as a little event, which has to do with what happens in this issue, starting off actually.
Exactly. And continuing in our spoiler vein, it's not really, because it's been teased in upcoming solicitations. If you're not familiar with what is upcoming in the Marvel Universe, one of the crossover events is going to be related to, and we've talked about it in the news before, the 2099 line, because of some serendipity with regards to the 80th anniversary of Marvel Comics.
Right. Yeah, it's been a minute since we brought that up. Like obviously we brought up 2099 because when you know Miguel first showed up, you know,
right,
coming into this book, the last issue? No, it was
it was a few issues back.
Yeah, like 2-3 issues ago. So we mentioned it then, and obviously there was news around that prior to that. So this is pretty much starting that engine.
Sure.
And starting off pretty nicely, actually. I mean, you know, we don't know, like, we know how they're going to do that stuff, but we don't know what it's all going to fully entail. So we just know that 2099 is coming back, just like every other event / you know, corner of the Marvel Universe at some point.
Right. Right. And you can't fault them because of the I hate to it invoke the beloved Craven storyline. It's not fearful symmetry, but it's beautiful symmetry.
Yeah, in cases, like some of it's slightly groan-inducing, but some of it's actually been done to great effect so far. I mean, you know, there's ones like, why are you going back to this again? Why? There's no reason for it. Some would say Atlantis attacks, like we talked about last week, but
except that one actually makes a little sense.
I mean, given what's going on, and I'm sure, and obviously planned, but yes. But I'm just saying, I was like, you know what? There's some events you could just leave right there. Now, if they plan on doing Siege again, I don't know. I depending on how they do it, I might be slightly upset or not. I don't know. Because, like I said, there ain't that many they have left to go back to. Like, they've done Secret Wars a couple of times. They've done Civil War twice.
Right.
You know, the Beyonder hadn't come back, but hey, that's only a matter of time. You know, they're
doing Iron Man 2020.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've hinted at Onslaught, for heaven's sake, but hopefully that's never going to come back.
All right.
So yeah, just we'll see. But we're getting slightly off track here. But I think that's pretty much rings out Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. As I mentioned earlier, I dig Patrick Gleason on art in this issue. It's a lot of fun to pick through his panels and look at the fight choreography, which is cool.
Plus, you were on record as not really caring that much about his art on the book.
No, I mean, no real offense intended, but I wasn't exactly hunting down Ryan Otley's autograph at any cons that he might have been at. So,
which, you know, Otley does good work for some stuff. You know, like not every artist is going to be, you know, good for every book.
Exactly.
So it's nothing against him. It's just that, yeah, you know, maybe some would argue that mix, you know. Anyway, on to the next spider-related book of the week, which is Amazing Spirit Mary Jane number 1.
I should have pulled a Cypress Hill clip. Shout out to 90s hip hop. Thank God we grew up in the right era.
I know, right?
So the premise in this is spilling out of the pages of the Amazing Spider-Man, where Mysterio.
So hang on, before you go any further, I want to read off my notes, and I want to see how if you agree with it. MJ's doing a Joker movie about Mysterio and has some obvious concerns, even if she only knows half of it. the credits because that could hold the one page. There's some real crafty fourth wall-ish breaking going on here, but I'm digging it. MJ is far from home, and I'll stop right there. So I don't know. What you think?
I like this. I had a lot of fun with this. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I am not afraid to admit that. I had reservations coming into this book that were well founded, I think, because they're kind of referring to what you were mentioning earlier about the whole 80th anniversary thing and how they're sort of throwing a million things at the wall to see what sticks. I was afraid this was going to be one of them. I am pleasantly surprised to report that Leah Williams knocked this out of the park. And I don't know where Gomez has been. I don't think this is the current major league outfielder who normally goes by the nickname Go-Go Gomez. But yeah, he's had an up and down career. He used to play for the Mets. That's how I'm familiar with him. But sure. And he used to be he was a former All-Star for a few seasons. But in any event, Carlos Gomez's art, and I didn't have a chance to look this up before, but the art is a revelation. And that's no joke. It's sharp. It's definitely Todd Nauck influenced from what I can see.
I was thinking of someone else, but I can't think of who that person was, who I'm thinking about. It's somebody who's been around Spider-Book fairly recently. I want to say who's doing Friendly Neighborhood art.
Wait, you mean very recently?
Yes.
On Friendly Neighborhood?
Yes. It slightly reminds me of that, but it may not be totally the case. I don't know. But it's definitely reminiscent of somebody I wasn't thinking Nauck, though.
Well, there's some places where Nauck is definitely evident, but with regards to just the layout and the fact that this artist that Gomez actually does believable backgrounds of a movie set, it's pretty impressive. But getting back to the story that we were referring to, that the events of this issue spin out of what happened in Amazing, and MJ is on set filming a new movie, the Mysterio movie, and Mysterio has his plans. And as Roddy Cat mentioned, it may very well be kind of a riff on what's happening in the real world right now with this Joker movie.
Mm-hmm. Because she comes to, which I didn't think they were gonna. Well, I guess so. This book's only 5 issues, so I guess they were gonna have to use some kind of speed in getting somewhere else to it. So, but outside of the fact that it is spinning off of stuff that is out of a plot that is kind of hadn't been brought up in a minute in Amazing. This is pretty much her side adventure with, I assume, what's going to go on with that. That's going to feed back into Amazing. And she finds out really quickly who's behind, or at the very least, who's directing said movie, and it's not the actual director who it's supposed to be, but
right,
the subject of the movie.
They didn't drag. Yeah, they definitely did not drag out that particular mystery.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I knew, and Mary Jane's usually quick on the ball, so eventually she was going to find this out. But it's like, okay, just went ahead and just throw it out there. All right, fine.
Hey, at the end, yeah, I was going to say, ultimately, what we have is a pretty interesting working relationship between the characters moving forward.
Yeah. She has affected the movie in a positive way. Which brings me back to the whole fourth wall breaking thing, because there was some of the stuff that they were talking about, kind of goes back to not only movies, and they were talking about how a specific character was being written, but one would argue they could be talking about the way they're written in the comics also.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure, and I know there's been already at least one article talking about that much out there. So it was definitely a good read. I enjoyed it, and given some of the issues in the past of Amazing that have featured Mary Jane, even though it's a mini series, and like, you know what, hey, she could, given the way she had been written recently and for quite a while, she could hold a book again. Maybe it may or not be a ongoing, because because fans would remember she's had. I think there were also miniseries back in the back, but they were written more like teen.
Right, those were versions, different versions, not present day versions.
Right,
Of
they were more like
Mary Jane.
teen, like teen kind of almost romancy versions of Mary Jane, which brings me to something that also had my notes, was like the pajamas that she had on, and I don't know why this kind of piqued my interest. It kind of seemed like a throwback to something, but I just can't remember what it is. Like, I feel like there's been a shot of her in that particular set that's been either on a cover or something that was kind of prominent.
Oh, probably a J. Scott Campbell cover.
Probably.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of those Mary Jane books, but I went and did some research on that part, and I was like, no, it's not those. So
I got you.
Regardless,
and just to wrap on the book, we have a nice little cliffhanger at the end of the issue. It's a reveal that is also spinning straight out of the pages of Amazing. So this, I guess there's enough happening in the Amazing title right now that this deserves its own little miniseries, as opposed to being a secondary storyline in the Amazing book.
And to be fair, it's not far off from what they've done fairly recently, especially with that like Craven the Hunter stuff, where they had the 0.1 issues.
Right. So
it's a more fleshed out version of that.
So I think this is actually a pretty good execution of this, as opposed to relegating it actually to B plot status. It's just off on its own for 5 issues, which I think will give it some room to breathe, and hopefully we'll get a good 5-issue series out of this. I'm looking forward to this now.
Yeah, truly. And hey, I'm sure this artist has been around. We found another great artist that could possibly take on some more work.
Sure.
Definitely could use it. This dude's good. I wanted to point out, like, you can't see it off of here, but I'm holding up, if you're watching the video, I'm holding up my iPad to a certain page. And on this page is like the I guess the splash page where they're they talk about they give the credits or whatnot, but it says a fantastical science fiction epic from Marvel Comics, the publisher that brought you Amazing Spider-Man number 42, The Infinity Gauntlet, Daredevil Born Again, and Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, which was one of the books that Mary Jane had back in the day that we're talking about.
Right.
I kind of find the music that they took those that's what they used for this. Like, it's made out like a poster for a movie, so obviously that is something. But the fact that they used those particular books and events may not mean anything, but I found it kind of interesting that they did. So now, that being the case, like I said,
I'm just Googling it now. What happened in Amazing 42?
That's what I'm saying. Like, who knows? And I guess you had to wonder which volume also.
That's a good point. I went immediately to the first volume.
Right, because you don't know, because unless that was because she had been introduced well before that. But yeah, so that was the thing I was thinking about. I was like, why would you bring that specific issue up?
No. This was her introduction.
Okay, so it just was that cut and dry. Okay,
this is the Face It Tiger. You just hit the jackpot issue.
Okay, I figured it was before that, but and again, you kind of figure.
You were right. I was about to say your instinct was right. Yeah, your instinct was right. You just had to confirm this.
Right, but those other ones was like Infinity Gauntlet. Like, I like that. Like, I like that miniseries, but I'm not sure what that has. And the Daredevil Born Again is whatever it is, which I don't think I've ever read that, but I'm not a big Daredevil fan. So, I mean, they may or may not have any direct ties outside of that first one.
No, actually no, because actually no, was that called Born Again?
Oh wait, hang on, because Duggan's writing this book, isn't he? I believe he is, and he wrote Infinity Gauntlet. No, it's Lee Williamson. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know. So that was I don't know. I felt
Yeah,
like
it's interesting. Now you're going to make me look this up afterwards. Like in the aftermath of our show, we're going to have some research to do to figure out how all of this stuff ties together into
if it
this
does,
book. Because
So,
I believe that Born Again might be related to Kevin Smith's run on Daredevil, because that's where Mysterio came in.
okay.
But I don't remember that storyline being called Born Again, because that obviously is a reference to Daredevil story against the Kingpin, with Nuke, and I don't remember Mysterio being related to that.
Let's see. Born
But
Again is
this
1986.
exactly. I was about to say, this is us semi-remembering so much comic book history.
Yeah, basically. 1986 comic book story arc that appeared in the Marvel comic series Daredevil, written by Frank Miller, drawn by David Mazzucchelli.
Yep, that's it. So that's what I thought. So it's kind of weird to see how Mysterio is related to that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's something to it, and like I said, there's usually when something like that happens, there's half the time there's a tie to it. Like, they wouldn't just bring something like that for no reason.
Right.
Or they might have. In this case, we found out there was nuggets there. And speaking of nuggets, let us go to Avengers number 25.
Sure.
I enjoyed this issue. It is a potential, just like Mary Jane was. This is a potential click of the week.
Yes, this Amazing Mary Jane was a surprise potential click of the week for me. This is not so much of a surprise.
So yeah, so it interesting. So yeah, this is the end of the Ghost Rider race. They're going off into another arc, and that arc is going back to something they hadn't talked about in a good minute. Just to jump ahead for a second, but jumping back, yeah, I mean, sure, Robbie's in a new place now after this issue. The Avengers came in and kind of helped with some not bard tech, with some tech they just happened to whip up real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, and I'm sure Agent 70 will agree with this notion, especially since they brought it up. But Fast and Furious has been established in this universe.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about just because, in a way with seemingly the movies have by Justin have, even though, they didn't.
I mean,
early.
They've obliquely referenced it thanks to to Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider's ride of choice.
Right.
So it's definitely less oblique now.
Right. And as a term, it's something that's been around way longer than the movies. But in this case, it seems like they just put a point on that.
Right. And I love that Caselli composed a page where it makes perfect sense now to keep Thor with obviously the status quo with Thor may or may not last with the upcoming run on Thor that's going to start this winter, but him using the Uru arm as a shield, I was like, oh man, this is something that Thor has kind of lacked for forever. This is something that makes the all the possibilities seem even more endless than what they were. Like they seem limitless.
Right. Well, Thor's have never been one to really, hide behind any kind of defense. He's usually, I'm gonna smash it in the head until it stops.
Right. Although what we've become used to seeing was Thor spinning his hammer and reflecting or deflecting attacks away. But now this is him literally having his own type of shield. So it's pretty. It was a pretty interesting way of drawing it up. I give Caselli a lot of credit. This issue is solid when it comes to the art. Solid. Got lots of background characters, lots of devils and demons.
Gamma Nas.
Yes, and it's there's just a lot of interesting things going on in here, and we also get mildest spoilers. We also get a solution of some sort with regards to Robbie's Uncle Eli's spirit.
Yes. But We also get, well, depending on what order you read this, we also get one of the, say, first of one or two references to Mephisto, which, if you've been paying attention to the show a lot, we bring up a good minute because he's been popping up pretty much everywhere a lot. Even though, despite the fact that he's supposedly in a certain place, which we will get to in another book, but he gets kind of reference here, not necessarily shows up, but he does get reference, and pretty much the rest of the book seems like it's going to go directly into Ghost Rider's book, which we talked about the first issue last week,
right?
With what Giant Blaze is going through now, and we kind of get a little bit of his troubles, in here. Maybe I don't know if this is before that or whatever,
right.
Time.
It'll eventually dovetail into that story, I think.
Right, but there was a resolution to the race kind of seemed like it affects that, whether they bring that to light or not. But definitely bring it up here.
Right, and the issue ends with a cliffhanger that has been developing over the last several issues, I think, with very small.
They brought it up once or twice, like probably about a good 3 or 4 issues ago.
Yeah, it's the very subtle evidence of a B plot, and we're rolling into one of those,
because it's kind of going back to something they started off with in the beginning of this run, but
right.
They've kind of been touching on every now and then.
Yeah, I was going to say they're rolling into one of what appears to be one of those one shots, but I think it might actually be extended slightly with regards to one of the concepts that Aaron had introduced of the 1 million BC Avengers.
Right. Yeah, and with this, because even when they brought this particular part into play, I'm like, really? I mean, I know so if you don't remember, the 1 billion BC basically is like, hey, there were Avengers way back in 1 billion BC, with a stand-alikes for the current crew, basically, including some known quantities, or at least some avatars for known quantities, I should say.
Sure.
But there was one that wasn't there, and now apparently we're going to find out that there is now going to be one particular, well, not even avatar, just a direct person from the original Avengers is going to be presented here, which I don't know. We still don't know, because they brought it up and they keep bringing it up, and it's apparently supposed to be going on. But and it's one of the running plots that that Aaron has pretty much said, "Hey, this is the thing that's coming." Which that actually brings up something, because I think up until issue 21, 22, something like that, they were really heavy on saying, "Hey, this thing is coming. These things are coming. These other things are coming. All these things are coming," and then they kind of stopped doing that. And then I guess they're now starting because the Ghost Rider thing, the race was one of them, and that's a done deal now. So now they're going to another one. I'm pretty sure they're going to, and there's still like probably good 3 or 4 different plots that are still like kind of out there they hadn't gone back to in a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's Aaron for you.
Mm.
Any fans of his Thor run will tell you that he definitely is playing the long game.
Right. So we will definitely, I'm sure we will be getting some updates on those in addition to the one that's probably going to be front and center next issue.
Absolutely. All right. So
what's next?
Well, I guess since we talked about Thor a little bit on that, do you want to go down that route?
Sure. We can do Valkyrie Jane Foster. I did read King Thor. I don't know if you did.
I did.
Okay. So while I scroll down through, pick which one you want to start with.
Well, I guess the direct tie will be King Thor number 2.
Alrighty.
As in, that is also the order that I read these books in anyway. So yeah. So this is King Thor. This is in the future. This is Jason Aaron's swan song miniseries. Ending his lengthy 7-8 year run on the Thor. And apparently, hey, as a person who has not read a whole lot of Thor, I only know a person that comes up in this book basically through us talking.
Right.
So the God Butcher's back in the future, and that's because Loki brought him out for a reason that apparently ends up coming clear during the course of this issue.
Right. It's basically a double cross. And it's fitting that Gore the God Butcher would be back because this is the villain that started Aaron's run on Thor many, many, many moons ago. So with that said, the concepts that that Gore introduced are still active. We're at the end of time, and Thor is attempting to to defeat Gore yet again, and he's trying to figure out how to do it, and he's asking Loki for help, and Loki is just not able to provide any.
Right. Well, and that's for a specific reason, which
Right.
if it's Loki, you kind of partially get that reason.
Right. And it's kind of cool. It makes, I'm digging this series because it makes me want to maybe dig up my my Build-A-Figure King Thor figure with the sword in hand and put him up. My shelf is in a state of transition because I didn't realize that the Fantastic Four had been up there for so long, for nearly a year, and I figure it's time to rotate the display finally.
Sure. Ooh, wonder what diorama he will come up with next, ladies.
Exactly. I'll make sure it goes up on Instagram, at some point soon. But
Indeed. So here's a question I have to ask. There was seemingly a couple of references that pop up in this book. One being Silver Surfer Black, and which is still kind of ongoing, and that's only because Gore is in possession or was, I guess, part of the possession of something that kind of comes up in that book, even though that book is so in the far-flung past.
Right.
And also, by the same token, that came up in War of the Realm, because this particular item.
And that's where, exactly. And that's where this is all sort of flowing back from. So
right. So I'll bring that up. And then there was another reference to cosmic god cop cases.
That must be something in the future, because that was the one thing that was the one reference from Thor's Daughters that did not ring any sort of bells for me. So
I was thinking it was Thor's the Secret Wars miniseries, which
that's actually a good callback. I didn't even think of that.
Because I was like, well, wait, was it? But I don't remember. Like, I know they were hunting. I know, So if you don't remember, the Secret Wars had a miniseries called Thor's, which was basically the Thor Corps. A bunch of, there was a Thor. The Thors were a bunch of cops, and they played it like it was homicide life on the streets, and it was glorious. It was great. I believe that was also Jason Aaron's run, if I'm not mistaken. And they were, I can't remember the specific case they were doing, and so I don't know if it has something to do with that reference, or as you say, maybe it is something that's coming up with you. But that was the first thing I thought of, when they mentioned that.
Oh, okay. I didn't even I completely forgotten about, and I know we're all fans of that Thor's miniseries.
Yes, that was an excellent miniseries. I wish they had spun that out into an actual book. That's how good I thought about it. So whether that's the case or not, who knows? But at this point, like Gore's, which that is rather close naming. Gore's thought patterns seem kind of a bit weird in this issue. So he's the God Butcher. So he's basically trying to get rid of all the gods, but he's in the midst of this issue. He's kind of had 2 or 3 different changes of thought, but the one he lands on basically has him doing the thing that he's trying to get rid of, weirdly enough. And I was like, did you really think about that closely? because he's a God butcher, but he was basically talking about becoming God himself, sort of. Except for he's differentiating it different from the other states of godhood in the past, but it was still kind of similarly. I was like,
I'm not 100% sure I get where you're going, but I'm willing to
there was a statement that a couple of statements that he made while he was battling Thor about basically getting rid of life so that he could start it over again, and so that he could sit there and watch them I guess prosper without gods. But in that case, he's basically making himself God if he's going to sit there and watch over one and get rid of life to create new life.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a God thing to do. So I'm sitting there like, well, wait, if the thing you task yourself to do is to kill the gods, but you want to become one, sort of. It was weird. I'm gonna make obviously in his thinking, he's not thinking like that, but it's still kind of weird. And I'm like, I don't know if you really thought that one out. And I was wondering if that's going to end up coming back out, but maybe not. So, like I said, I think about stupid stuff like this, so ain't no telling. But the only thing else to bring up from this issue is that apparently Loki is really, really powerful because he was able to get Wonder Woman's lasso.
Ha!
So that's a small feat, jumping whole universes and companies to get an item. I'm just saying, get a man his props. But yeah, and last but not least, yeah, the ending of it was interesting. Like it's not interesting in the Doctor Strange ended in a way to where you could just not go any further, or you don't have to go any further. But kind of, I guess you could, but there is still. I don't know if you were to leave it like this, there would be like, well, that seemed like an anticlimactic way to go out. And we know Jason Aaron is not about that. So, but obviously there is a cliffhanger, and there is 2 more issues to go. Is that right? I think so. I think it's 2 more issues. Regardless, there's still some more issues to go from this.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if it's a 4 or 5 issue series actually.
Yeah, but regardless, yeah. So that's where we are with that. It was a good read. Like even without, like obviously you would need a little bit of knowledge going into it, but the story kind of, props itself up the way you don't really, as a self-contained story, it's kind of all right. Like yeah, there's a couple of things that kind of show up, like especially that sword that Thor had. It was like I don't know anything about it, but if you've been reading Thor, you know about it. Stuff like that, but it may not detract from your reading this. So let us move on to, I guess the other Thor-related book of the week, Valkyrie, Jane Foster number 4.
Sure.
I'll update my notes here.
Right. We have a direct continuation of the previous issue with the Grim Reaper, and we finally understand what has been going on in this series with regards to the enemies that the Valkyrie has encountered, and who it appears has been pulling the strings in the background to create the adventures that she's had to go on thus far, and why. And I was going to say, and why they're actually targeting her in particular.
Right. Yes, it took us 4 issues to get to this point, but it was like, okay, that makes sense. Sure, why not? But what doesn't make sense, in regards to the person pulling the strings, is going back to what I've alluded to earlier, in that. So we find out that Mephisto's pulling the strings, and why he's doing that because of some deal that he made with Hela a while back, and had something to do with Valkyries. So therefore, that deal he can't use the loopholes of that deal with Jane Foster in the way. Let's just put it away. So that's pretty much the whole machinations behind that. Now, the issue I have with it is because, one, Mephisto has been popping up in a whole different places. Here he is in the place where he's supposed to be, but not in the place that he should be or has been stated to be. And we've said it, I think we've said it before, and I'm saying it again. Like, obviously, there's probably going to be an event that's coming up that's going to shed some light on why he's been popping up so many places. If not, then there's a problem somewhere in the Marvel publishing.
Well, I don't know if it's an editorial problem or if at the end of the day they're just willing to concede that whatever loopholes there are, and that's how Aaron and Ewing kind of address it in this issue. He's exploiting, Mephisto is exploiting to the best of his abilities.
Sure, as he tells,
especially with the kind of feature role that he played in the latest Champions series.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he showed up there, he's shown up other places. He's shown up in actual jail with, I want to say it was Doctor Strange. I can't remember. He's been in Doctor Strange. He's been a few different places, either just running frame, and even one time we saw him. He was actually in jail talking to Wong, where he was supposedly supposed to be.
Right.
I still think there's an event coming or something, because there was. Well, it's almost. Well, we've gotten C-listed already, so probably would have done. I feel like there's an event coming that's going to shed some light on that. I feel I don't believe they would be like. I feel confident that can't be just an oversight on editorial part. There has to be something to all of this. For him to just be popping up everywhere, or like he is. I don't know. It's weird. Like, maybe we'll find out in this book what's the case. We don't know. So, and if you did not know, so after the events of Damnation, which this book kind of references, he's supposed to be technically contained, as he says, which, like I said, he does show up in the book as being actually contained in a jail cell. So, but as we have also just said, he's been kind of floating around here and there in other places, kind of seemingly willy-nilly. Go figure. I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing that shows up is, speaking of Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange shows up in this. I was
about to say, what we're neglecting to address is what actually happens as a result of us finding out about this plot by Mephisto in this book. We have the reappearance of the other host body of the Valkyrie spirit in
Riggs,
previously in Fearless Defenders, and Annabelle Riggs is making a presentation with what turns out to be a magical artifact that she's discovered. And as you mentioned, Doctor Strange comes up and magical hijinks ensue.
Right, which Jane is like, well, I see this going someplace, and so she gears up, and sure enough, things happen as they tend to do. And as I say in my notes, is like, well, these things happen and something's bound to cause trouble, and sure did cause a little bit of trouble for Annabelle Riggs.
And shout out to Cafu on art, who continues to kill it on this book. It is amazingly good stuff. Right.
So during the course of this issue, we find out, like I said, what Mephisto's after and what he's doing in relation to Jane Foster. And I feel like whatever event that may or may not be coming out of going to furthest, he ends up in possession of something that I thought he already had that was brought up in Doctor Strange in the outset. Because you remember Doctor Strange made a deal with Mephisto, right? To get his hands back. I believe that was Mephisto. I know he showed up. I believe it was. Regardless.
No, that was something else.
You sure?
Yeah, because Mephisto got was he was the one that basically the price for his assistance in that big story was the loss of Clea.
Right. Okay.
And the hands thing was something else.
Right. That's right. It was some other person who had some forbidden magic. That's right. You're totally right. So yeah, but regardless, Mephisto did still show up around that time and took something away from Doctor Strange, which now that I think about it, probably wasn't what I thought about. Isn't what I thought it was. That Grim Reaper ends up getting at the end of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, and we get as what tends to happen, we get a reemergence of I guess some old Doctor Strange villains, one of which we have seen in a movie.
Yeah, that was a nice little callback. When I read that, I was like, wait, we actually understand how to pronounce that now.
Right.
It's one of those names that you don't automatically know how to pronounce, but now that we've heard it a bazillion times in the Doctor Strange movie,
Right.
it's easy.
Like, what's up, Matt Mickelson?
Right.
Which and maybe it's just projecting it on. It was like he kind of did look like, even though now, granted, the character's been around before the movie, which I did not know that, but doing a little research, I'm like, all right, which it makes sense, But it was like, okay, all I was thinking was like, oh shoot, that's a movie reference, because that's where we've most recently seen this character.
Right, but it was funny to see to see that one character, and I presume if we were well versed in Doctor Strange history, we would recognize the other two as well.
Yeah, those other. I feel like the one lady may have shown up somewhere that I recognize, but I don't know. And so out of the three, obviously the one we knew about was the one that was just happened to be featured in the movie. So
right,
but yeah, all in all, was a good issue. This book continues to be great. That I'm weirdly curious to see what's going to happen with that horse, Mr. Horse.
I liked Jane Foster's theory on why this particular horse survived the War of the Realms, or as they call it, the War of Realms. And I keep sticking the in there, but that's what the title was. So
right. Yeah, I was like, this is just like, clearly this one had this one wasn't a front runner.
What's cool? I was about to say, what's cool is that this particular horse is the latest in the long line of sidekick sentient animals that aren't necessarily stupendously heroic or stupendously helpful. These are not Thor's goats by any stretch of the imagination. This is
it's more like Thor in a way, which another.
I was gonna say either that or a cross between Thori and Cringer from He-Man.
I put that on him. Come on, he's a little.
Yeah, he's more brave
on that side. Yeah, he hadn't shown that side on him. But yeah, there's a particular kind of hilarious. Well, not as hilarious, but there's an incident with the horse and where it is and Jane's predicament in her mortal life, and her friend brings it up before they go off to see Annabelle Riggs. So I was like, I guess this is going to be something we don't know. So, but all good stuff. They bring up something about Wonder Man, but that's going to happen. So I don't doubt if that's going to come up into anything. But I was like, that was an interesting thing that they happen to, for some stupid reason, bring it up. But given that who Mephisto was talking to, that makes sense.
Right. I mean, but given Wonder Man's current state in the Iron Man title, we may not see him for a little while.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was
there. Yeah, he sort of is. But
sure.
He's definitely tied up for anyone who has been following the Tony Stark Iron Man book. I'll refer to it later, probably in rapid fire. Are there any other books that we want to speak about at length, or are we ready to hit the rapid fire mode?
I think we are good. Well, unless you want to bring up Immortal Hulk, but yeah, we can.
We'll do Immortal Hulk because I think it'll be quick.
Sure.
Because Immortal Hulk number 25 came out this week, and it is.
It's kind of
trippy. It's kind of trippy.
Yeah.
You wonder if we needed to all be high and or drunk to read this.
Yeah, it's kind of things like, wait, did we miss something? Which Al Ewing doesn't, it's like, no, we didn't miss anything. So now he just took that left turn and was like, no, you're gonna keep going this way with me.
Right. It was definitely a departure. Definitely a departure from what we are used to. But ultimately, he's taken the concept of And mild spoiler alert, but if you've been following along with Immortal Hulk, it's not going to be that big a spoiler. He's taking the World Breaker Hulk concept and expanded upon it and essentially made it a substitute or something along the lines of a Galactus, where Galactus is the devourer of worlds, we have the breaker of worlds, and he's even got an interesting new suit that appears to be very Galactus inspired.
I thought the exact same thing when he showed up. I'm like, okay, where's the story going? And are we going to get some? Oh, there he is. He's looking, very galactic. Also, weirdly enough, if he had gone one more step further, this could have been the origin of Superman.
Yeah, exactly. A form of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the introduction of Mothra to the Marvel universe, to be honest.
Right.
There is.
I thought that too, because I was like, wait, why is that showing up there?
Right.
Like,
There is definitely. I know that there's a couple of artists on this issue. It's not just Joe Bennett, but there was definitely a Mothra vibe in the appearance of a character in the book.
That has to be a reference to something that would, or that has to be a reference to something else.
I'm not sure. Not sure.
Excellent. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but it's like Ewing doesn't really put too many references for no reason. But
right, because essentially they all tie back together in some form or another the way he writes.
Right.
So we also get some more information on that whole one below all that is.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little bit of work on a couple of splash pages that Bennett puts together.
Right. Which if you are following certain corners of the comic book creator averse, you may have seen a panel from it. So
right.
That someone referenced.
It's Herman Garcia is the artist that was responsible for that whole space adventure stuff. And Bennett is the one who does the latter half of the book that involves the reappearance of a longtime Hulk nemesis.
Right. We have said this before in passing, like the Hulk's rogue gallery has pretty much been coming not necessarily left and right, but at just really interesting times.
Yes.
And this is no stranger. It's like every probably 5 or 6 issues, like, oh wait, hey, here's someone else from his past, or not even 5, probably about 3 or 4 issues. Like, hey, somebody else from his past, and it's usually some of the more known quantities that have come up, and this is probably one of the most known quantities that has yet to show up in 25 issues.
Right.
Which I think we may or may not have even said, hey, where is he? I don't know. So, and I think we were joking beforehand. It was like, well, the only people that are left are like the UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Rocket Raccoon comes back, but he's something else. I don't know.
Like, where's Zax?
Right, exactly. Like, is there going to be another Wolverine fight? I don't know.
That's funny. But yeah, that was a nice reveal at the end of the issue. We won't spoil it here, but it definitely felt earned. I felt like this character definitely earned this appearance in this story.
You definitely didn't see it coming, especially with what was going on in the first three
quarters. Exactly. The first 3 quarters of the book did not prepare us for this appearance. So it was definitely a trippy read. That is not an understatement.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, it's also a lengthier book than normal.
Yeah, but I think it was like a 25th issue type anniversary.
Right. But it didn't really do anything outside of just like, nope, we got more pages to do this story. Cool. I'm using all these pages.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely more expensive than the regular book, but yeah, I think it's and what's funny is that they didn't even announce it like a 25th issue anniversary thing. They just charge you more for it, and obviously there's more content.
Right, and if you've been around comics a while, they used to do this a lot more in the past, but numbering is all screwed up anyway now.
Right.
And I thought kind of a similar thing with Avengers 25. Like they really didn't do anything for Avengers 25, except for the fact that it wasn't really there wasn't really anything noteworthy or anniversary like or of the numbering.
Right.
So, but yeah. Like I said, back in the days, we had it better. Anyway, next up, I think we will go into...
You want to just talk Marauders real quick?
You know what? Sure. Yeah, why not? Marauders number 1, the new X book that is out in the second... it's not a second wave, but the second book in the X-Men, I guess that's what they call it. I don't know. Legacy.
It's the Dawn of, right. It's the Dawn of X. And...
Yeah, I know, but...
One of the more interesting setups for this book, one of the things that I guess were confused about when it came to the information teasing what these books would be starting with, how these books would be starting,
right?
And the mystery of it is set up right on the first page, and you're just taken aback and are left with a not a who, but a huh. It's more like a no, and it's that setup to the story. And I'm hesitant to spoil it because I think it's definitely worth reading this book to see how this character, and I'm referring to Kate Pryde.
Yes, gets herself into this predicament, or into this, into her new status, as it were. So, and even in that part, just like, okay, the mystery as to the one part, which we won't spoil, as to why, basically the conceit as to why this has to be the way it is, which still kind of not necessarily bugs me, but it's like, wait, there's other things they could do to around this, but I guess this is a good way to kind of draw it out a little bit. But the premise of this whole book was already kind of weird, especially given the little information that we had gotten prior to this, that we had talked about in the show previously with the news. And this book kind of seemed like basically like a tie-in book to Secret Wars or something, the way it seemed. Because think about it, the X-Men on a ship,
right,
and sailing the high seas, like that's like, why would they need to do that? Like, what's the make sense? But this kind of fleshes out why they do that, even though that
exactly. We had already discussed in the teasers, what this would entail, and we kind of, and the first issue really sets that up. But what we did not know was why this particular character, Kate Pryde, aka Kitty Pryde, was going to be front and center in the book, and now we know why.
Right. And boy, and she was definitely front and center for a lot of this book. Obviously, she is no stranger to leading the next team, so that's not, that's nothing new. But some of the pages they gave her in this book were like, okay, like they've not necessarily not saying that she's never been an effective X-Men, but she uses her powers to. Obviously she's been trained by a couple of different people in the past. So, and that's, not really been coming out. She has grown as a person from her heady days of being a sprite.
Sure.
But she was pretty, badass in this.
Hey, listen, I have the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries. It's underrated, although I wouldn't pay for Al Milgram to sign it at $5 a pop either. Oh no, shots fired. But
yeah, the premise of this book, like I said, the premise of this book is what it is. I'm like, all right, we're just gonna roll with it. But at the same time, I'm still like, they have better ways to do this, and even part of it, even still with them, fleshing it all out here, is like, well, that being the case, she, her part is what it is. I get, but some of these other people don't necessarily have to be are affected by that, but they're still using the thing as whatever. So yeah, so she's basically got a new job. She's got her own crew,
right?
Lovingly picked together, with the exception of one, which is kind of funny because you've seen the solicitors. You may not have seen the solicitors, but you've probably seen the cover if you've been paying attention. Pyro is basically a part of the crew, and the way he gets drafted into the crew was like, oh no, he just happened to be there. Well, sometimes this happens. especially in X books. But it was kind of funny in this one.
And it's funny that I was about to say, and it's funny that Pyro, given his memories, is more than willing to just be like, hey, I'm going to roll with the punches here. He is he's a former member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but is also one of the members that had kind of seen the light when they went by Freedom Force, for those of you of a certain vintage.
Oh, the 90s.
That's actually 80s when they went to Freedom Force.
Wait, I thought that was because whatever. Yeah, sure.
That's actually 80s when they went to when they were working for the government. They're working for Val Cooper.
Right, because I thought that. Well, see, I thought it was a 90s thing. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Again, spotty knowledge goes too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing that kind of was like with that was like he just happened to be there, and I did not know there was apparently another Pyro, because Bobby was like, hey, you're the original Pyro. I'm like, wait, was there another one?
He was dead.
Right. I gathered that from this, but I was like, well, and then they basically, which now the X-Men have a built-in
resurrection system.
Resurrection thing. So yeah, and they go through that. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. We're That's here for that now. Yeah. So
I mean, I'm digging this. I dig that it seems like Kitty or Kate Pryde is one of Jerry Duggan's favorite characters. I love the shine that she's getting in this.
Is that the case, or is
it seems like it, because based on who's writing the book?
Sure. But yeah, he's definitely put her to some great effect in this issue. I'm like, okay, she's like I said earlier, effectively badass. Not to say she wasn't wasn't a good writers, but like, all right, go ahead, you do your thing.
And it's nice to see her not on the Excalibur team. It's nice to see her off on something else.
We'll get to that next week when Excalibur, or whenever Excalibur comes on, because I have a fondness for the original Excalibur team, so I'm going to miss her there.
I see.
But sure.
I see. Yeah, I definitely don't have the same affection for that original Excalibur run, although I understood it because it came in the wake of Fall of the Mutants. Just very quickly, I don't know if you had a chance to. I don't know if this was the same in the X-Men #1 credits page from last week. I'd have to go back and dig mine up and see, but on the credits page of this book, Jonathan Hickman is listed head of X. Yes,
I saw that. I noticed that. I mean, which makes sense because this whole thing is his baby, and he's
right. He's basically running. Right, he's running the X corner of the universe, but at the end of the day, Jordan White is still the editor.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, but as far as the shepherding of the story,
right?
Yeah. So yeah, that it all checks out. I'm like, all right, sure, get your credit.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Marauders #1. It's like I said, this was surprising. I don't know.
I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's a
good, but it was.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like the week, but it was good.
Potentially, it is for me because it was just fun, and like I said, the premise still kind of shaky with me in a spot or two, but it was pretty good.
Well,
and
I was going to say, you hope that they kind of delve into that at some point, because it makes no sense based on what we had seen already.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we had seen already in the Hoxpox series. Like, why is this happening now?
Right.
Because it obviously didn't start happening until after the 3 characters that we see in the beginning of this issue go through and come out one side, and then all of a sudden it stops working. So that's really,
one particular character, yes,
exactly. So it's a contrived setup, and I hope that at some point they explore why. But I hope they take their time with it, because it doesn't seem like it's really affecting the character that much.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying initially with this. We're so like, yeah, it's affecting this person, but it shouldn't be affecting the other people who are basically being shepherded back to core in this particular way. I'm like, okay, there wasn't anything affecting them except for the opposition.
Right.
And-
You mean at the end of the book?
Yeah.
I think they just explain it away like they chose to do it. I don't recall. I'm gonna just scroll very quickly.
Well, as far as the people they saved, as far as everybody else on the crew, yeah, they explained that as like, yeah, we came together, we leave together, basically. But the people they were saving, like they could have just gone on through and be like, hey, it's somebody on the other side, and but it's like, all right, I got a ship, everybody get on, and they made it, and they made it obvious. They got it out of the way, folks. They made an obvious Lonely Island reference. You know the one I'm talking about.
That's funny.
They got it out of the way. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It was it wasn't groan inducing, but I was like, you know what? This is the book to do that in. Go ahead. Get it out of the way.
Is it implied? I was about to say, is it implied that that all those people got on the ship?
No, I want to say it was. I want to say it was actually said, like right before Storm said, like, we came together, we leave together. And then Kitty was like, well, you're pretty much everybody on the boat or something like that. But I may be mistaken, and maybe I put the implication there. I don't know. I would have to go back and check it out.
Yeah,
because you would think they would have seen them going through they would have alluded to them going through the gate. But it didn't seem like they were actually going to do that.
right. It's not clear. It's definitely not clear from what I'm seeing, and it doesn't make any sense for all those people to not go through the gate.
Right.
The Krakoa portal.
Because, like, okay, y'all can go through. There's somebody to meet you on the side. Like, we got these other people we got to go deal with.
All right.
That would have been that. But hey, I'm not, there's maybe something about. Now, I will say that there's some, as during the Hoxpox books, there is some stuff that comes up in the text pages, one of which the Bar Sinister gossip.
Right.
That kind of gives nuggets of seemingly some stuff to come. It looks like in this book, and and addresses a couple other things surrounding this book, in the form of a dossier. So I'm sure there's they got some legs to start running on with this book, however long it lasts. Not trying to kill this book, but I'm just saying. And that, folks, is Marauders number 1. So I guess now, unless you got something else,
no, we'll go rapid fire. There's plenty of stuff to go through because this was actually a really good week of books.
It's true.
But in the interest of brevity and time, let's spin it up.
Brevity.
All right, we are in rapid fire mode and going to run through some of these books that we probably have in common.
Mm-hmm.
Agents of Atlas.
Yes.
Number 3. I am liking where this book is going. Greg Pak is weaving, I think, a pretty interesting story with the concept of this corporation that has created not Krakoa portals, but something very technologically based, but similar in concept between Asian neighborhoods in several different countries. And the Agents of Atlas are trying to figure out what their ultimate plan is, and their hesitance to team up, or at least Amadeus Cho's hesitance to team up with the appointed protector of this Pan, the city of Pan. That's Isaac Ikeda.
Yes, and although there seems like there may actually be something there may be a legit concern that implied within this book as to his interpretations. I've enjoyed it too. I do love the real world analog in that. So like, hey, the premise was, hey, these portals opened up, you can go to neighboring neighborhoods, but it was only a trial period, and the trial period just ended.
Right.
So like, and you could almost see some real world parallels. Like, oh man, it's over now. So, but then it goes into some other stuff with some others. They're them trying to get to the bottom of this company's dealings and dealing with a slight scandal, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, there's some socio-political analogs in here that Pak has incorporated into the story. And as you mentioned, there's a bit of a scandal, but it involves 2 members of this team who have caught feelings and expressed them, and it's apparently not sitting well with some of the other members. I'm really loving that Silk is.
She's like Amadeus's kind of the person on the shoulder. In a sense.
Well, I was gonna say that what she is, given that she's supposed to be uh not quite Peter Parker's age because of the whole like being in like suspended animation or captivity.
Right.
She's the elder statesman of this team other than Shang-Chi.
Right. That's
So
true.
it's kind of interesting to see her be like, hey,
Kind of the cops.
yeah, bringing in even bringing in a little bit of a an older perspective, but at the same time, you know, it's hard to give her the that veteran perspective because she really hasn't been a hero for all that long.
Plus, yeah, she kind of is not necessarily childlike, but because of her situation, because of how she came into the universe, and and being, I guess, what in captivity. I don't know how you call it. It's kind of like that Netflix show, the
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of had that situation going on, and then she's kind of out in the world, so she's kind of just living life, and so there's a little bit of wonderment to her character.
Right. There's definitely some innocence and some wonderment to that as well.
Right, but still being, like you said, the kind of an elder statement of the group, and being on Amadeus's shoulder, as it were.
Right, because in terms of seniority, obviously Shang-Chi, carries that. But I think if we are actually going to look at age as a factor, I think she's probably next up.
Plus, it always makes me want to go back because I never did finish reading her book. I always every time I read this book, it's like I want to go back and finish reading Silk.
And they're doing a good job with her. I'm really liking the fact that they are using her in this book, and we get to see her in any of those Spider-Verse type crossovers, which are still fun.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Yeah, because you always feel like they do a character like that, and they just end up dropping her.
Right, and the book ends,
and a couple other people.
Right, and the book ends on a cliffhanger that teases more relationships abounding.
Yes, with some other people in the group because of the first kind of scandal, some actions was taken against the offending group, which only gave way to this other situation.
Right.
Completely devoid of that first one. But so my only other thought is like I kind of wish that the champions were still around to kind of, because Amadeus was with the group, and they just happened to be an issue where they were like, hey, so we got this picture here, we got this video that's been floating around the internet, so what's up, man?
Yeah,
like kind of thing. I would have loved to have seen something like that happen. I mean, they're still around, but the book isn't. So
exactly. So we don't get to see it on the page. Really, my hope is that we with this incoming event, the champions are supposed to appear. So we will see more of them, but it's a shame that, well, at least we're getting Amadeus in this setting. So
right, exactly.
Next up is Amazing Spider-Man Full Circle #1, and if you look at the cover of this book, when you come across it, it really does play out very much like it does in that cover image, because it's a pastiche of several pieces of art in this book that illustrates the concept. The story is told by Jonathan Hickman, Jerry Duggan, Nick Spencer, Kelly Thompson, Al Ewing, Chip Zdarsky, and Jason Aaron in a circle. They hand the baton off to each creative team after a certain number of pages, and it comes all the way back around to the beginning. And it's a very interesting way of telling a story. It is lots of goofy, silly fun. I know that PCN_Dirt told us before the show that he liked this. I think it's a little on the overpriced side, but ultimately it's a lot of fun to read. It's nice to see Chris Bocciolo on art for certain sections of this book, and there's plenty of art in this book by fan favorites like Greg Smallwood, Mike Allred, Valerio Schiti, Chris Sprouse, Rachel Stott, Cameron Stewart, and Mark Bagley. So that is a whole host of artists on this book.
And if we know one thing about Spider-Man fans, much like Batman fans, people will pay for a book given a chance.
Alrighty. Next up is Detective Comics number 1014. And I apologize for constantly getting a kick out of reading those numbers. So this issue is the latest in I want to say it's Tomasi, but now I'm going to scroll to my review copy and see. Yes, it is Peter Tomasi. Tomasi's story in Detective that is revolving around Mr. Freeze. And something that I was surprised, although I didn't actually look it up, I have not confirmed this with reference, but it was I don't want to say a solution, but definitely a workaround for Nora Freeze's condition. And with that, it's an interesting development, especially given that this is kind of a tie-in to the Year of the Villain stuff. This issue revolves around Mr. Freeze and coming up with this workaround for Nora's condition, and it was pretty fun to see, and I know that PCN_Dirt enjoyed this book as well. Ghost Spider number 3. I am always digging Taka Miyazawa's art, and Sean and Maguire is doing an excellent job of creating a new setting for Gwen Stacy's stories, in that she's splitting time between Earth 65 and our Earth 616, where Gwen is not only dealing with actually starting her college career, but also dealing with not one but two versions of the Jackal. And we all know how Gwen Stacy's and Jackals do not mix. So it's a lot of fun. As I mentioned earlier, Taka Miyazawa's art is consistently strong. There is the possible introduction of a new villain to Gwen's rogues gallery, and one wannabe member of her rogues gallery makes an appearance in this, and hopefully doesn't make a tragic last appearance in this book. What's the sound effect I need? So there's that. We spoke about Immortal Hulk. We spoke about Valkyrie Jane Foster and King Thor. Did you read Future First Fights Luna Snow?
I did.
So this was a really fun read, because I couldn't help but think, and I feel like I need to speak to Alyssa Wong at the next Comic Con that she's at, that I can speak to her at about whether or not what she's put into the lyrics of this K-pop song translated into Korean, whether or not they rhyme. Whether or not the lyrics rhyme,
or they just made it up for the book and just didn't matter.
Right. No, but exactly. Or if they or if like if they're, or if translated because they don't rhyme at all.
Right.
There's no internal rhyme or trying to figure out the verses.
Right.
But other than that little bit of distraction for me, I really like this, in the sense that it further fleshes out the character's origin, which I'm not that familiar with. We know that she's supposed to be a pop star, a K-pop star,
right?
And
just like White Fox from the last issue we talked about, she's from Future Fights video game, and
Right.
I'm not sure how much of I don't know. I haven't played it when they introduce these characters, so I don't know how much is either coming from there, if they even did that much, and she just kind of fleshing it out a little bit more, or this is pretty much it, and
Right. I was going to just mention, and fans of K-pop will understand this. I understood this concept, though, of just from stories that I had read about K-pop academies, where people actually learn to become K-pop superstars.
Yes,
And,
if you're an anime fan, you also know of this.
and if you were not familiar with this concept, it's definitely put front and center in the story and how they produce Luna Snow's career. So it's pretty. It's not ripped from the headlines, but it's definitely pulling directly from real world reference when this character is introduced.
Right. Except for the fact of, or except for the reason how she got her powers.
Oh
But,
yeah,
but I mean, that's obvious. I do like the fact that her group was called For Lit. Like it's kind of groan inducing in that, because obviously lit is a they're fairly recent terms, but then again, the K-pop's popularity has been kind of growing over the past probably good 5-10 years.
right.
So, it's not outside the realm of possibility that could vary. I mean, we got a group called BTS, so which could sound, mean for something else. I don't know what it actually. Wait, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah, I was about to say it's not behind the scenes, which is what I always take it for.
Oh, which if you hear those letters, that's what you need to think of, unless you are a BTS fan.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you say that in the presence of BTS fans, you might hear squealing and screaming. So,
yes. But as origins go, and granted, it's a comic book, it was relatively plausible. Like, there's some, it kind of felt familiar. I dare say, kind of sort of cut and dry in a hero origin way in certain respects, but still good.
oh, it was definitely just fun.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of the K-pop band kind of rallying around her made it even funnier. And she obviously doesn't have very much of a secret identity to protect. She's a public figure, which is what we've seen in the Agents of Atlas stories.
Right. So yeah, it's worth a read if you are interested in that character.
And the last book I've got is Tony Stark Iron Man number 17. This is I think the penultimate issue of the Tony Stark Iron Man book.
I think it's ending at 20.
I thought it was stopping at 18.
No, I think that may be the case, but I could have sworn they said 20, and there's a change for 18. That there's like either an artist change or something that's happening at 18.
Okay, well, it's
I
definitely.
believe. I'm not. Don't quote me on that.
Right, exactly. We also go through a lot of comic book news, folks, and it's hard to remember everything we discuss. But this is, I think, what is it? The creative team on 18 changes. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what I'm remembering. But
change on 18. But yeah, because I feel like we talked about it last week.
Right. Ultimately, Dan Slott's story on this book is coming to a head with Rhodey kind of dealing with some PTSD from his encounter with Thanos. And well, it's taken a while.
Yeah.
It's definitely taken a while because we haven't seen too much of him armored up in a long time.
Right, and it's because of that, and yeah, so I had to read on that because I didn't know that part of it, but I did read a little bit about that part.
All right, so we have Ultron Pym's plot to produce another human fused with robot wife, and that doesn't exactly go to plan, but instead we have Tony Stark and Iron Man armor fused together, and that is the concept that carries the story. There's also what seems to be the final turning of Hank Pym's character.
Poor Nadia.
Exactly. It's definitely not a welcome development for anyone who's a fan of Hank Pym. I feel bad for Michael Douglas.
I know too many people who are, given his background, but that's another story entirely.
Exactly. Especially given his past failings as a husband. But
because Tony Stark being the new boyfriend of the Wasp and Hank being the old husband, that this little battle seems interesting.
Sure, and that's definitely a concept that Slot is running with in the story. So, but with any but in any event, this series is moving towards the Iron Man 2020 story very quietly in the background. So we will see how far um, this goes with developing developing that concept, and we'll see what happens to Tony Stark at the end of the series.
So
And that is
hey,
it.
yeah, so I'm seeing a 19, so I think it does go to. I think it is actually going to 20,
Okay.
like we thought. So yeah, because I'm seeing here there is a 19 that's coming.
Right.
So to do my rapid fire, yours was Tony Stark, which I only have a couple left. Strike Force number 2. So I know. Wait, are you actually going to read this or no? I don't know.
I might. You can spoil it. It's fine.
I mean, it's really not much to spoil. The team is still on the hunt for these. I dare say the MacGuffin, but it's not. That's not true. So these basically some folks have been taking over superheroes, which actually there might be a slight theme with the next book that I've got. So they end up going to Vegas, which, as we have said before, is a place of repute because and also Damien Hellstrom, who got killed at the outset of the last issue, that's going to get taken care of, so don't worry about that. But they're in Vegas still investigating the thing that they're doing. Monica Rambeau, I love that character already, and she's used in good effect to this one because I think at one point fairly recently in that last events book she got kind of nerfed, but in this issue it seems like she's still got a pretty decent, a pretty good power set. But it was a fun read for those like Jessica. Jessica Drew's kind of having her moment now that they're in Vegas and she's away from her kid. So there's some fun to be had in this issue, but they're still supposed to be on task. But at the end of the issue, there's a kidnapping and an ongoing investigation. Let's just say. I don't know if there was anything else to say about that one, but Contagion number 4 is my the only other thing I was going to say about that, Satana, who comes up, who is the Hellstrom's brother, apparently doesn't keep up with her brother because she made a remark about the way he was looking, which if you've been paying attention to Avengers, he's got a quite different look than he has even in his recent showings,
right?
So, and she kind of makes a remark about that. I was like, well, clearly you're not keeping track of your brother. But anyway, Contagion number 4, my last book. So, zombie fungus, street level heroes fighting it. More folks get swept up into it and some get taken over. The inevitable happens, and because of scientific curiosity, the thing that the folks didn't want to happen happens, and the Avengers get affected, which is probably going to cause a bigger issue next issue. But at the end of this one, we found that the fungus and the controller of said fungus virus zombie thing has added to its power set, and not just with the people that has been taken up with the virus. And Moon Knight comes up with a plan that puts him in the way of things. So we'll see how that plans out. I want to say this is the penultimate issue, but I can't remember how many issues this was supposed to go. So we'll find out when it is. But that Contagion?
Contagion?
Yeah.
Forgot.
Yeah, I don't either. So it doesn't matter. When we get there, we'll get there. So that is the end of my books. Clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
And we already have 2 from our erstwhile partners in crime who are not here. One of them's kind of already been spoiled in the way of Detective Comics number 1014 from Dirt. I don't think he's had any notes on that, but regardless, Tim's is Avengers number 25.
Okay.
Which, interesting pick for Tim.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, so Dirt does. Oh no, that was you that said that. Never mind. I'm looking at the back channel for.
About Full Circle.
Yeah, no, about Detective.
Right.
So yeah, so now for us, if you got yours,
I'm thinking I actually have the all too familiar problem of too many choices because unlike some weeks, this week was full of stuff I enjoyed reading.
yep,
There
true
were
that.
there are a lot of choices this week for this particular Marvel Zombie to choose from. So
I see what you did there.
yes, I'm really going over the list and I'm having some issues trying to figure out what I want to choose. Even something that I only read very casually, like Detective Comics, had, as I mentioned earlier, a particular concept that I had not thought of ever. And I was interested to see Tomasi pull that off in spades. Um, Immortal Hulk was a trip, but it definitely kept me riveted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at the outset of it, I was like, okay, all right, you were going somewhere with this, and you got here. Now the trip here was kind of not necessarily bumpy, but I was like, okay, that was a trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Even something like Future First Fights Luna Snow #1, which you thought was kind of formulaic. I just kind of dug because the execution was well done.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. Despite me thinking that, it was still great to read. It was a good great read. So, I mean, Amazing Mary Jane, another good pick. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we have no.
I think I'm actually gonna go with Amazing Mary Jane #1. It's very interesting. Of all these books, I had a ton of fun reading Amazing Mary Jane #1. Although
Yeah.
there are a lot of close seconds.
Yeah. Like even Marauders, like I was like, okay, that was a weird premise in going into it, and still is, given some,
Yeah, given some of the the reasons for the title.
right. So it's like, all right, sure, we gotta. It is what it is. So is that actually going to be your pick? Amazing.
Yes, Amazing Mary Jane #1.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that one.
Like I said, I wish I had that Cypress Hill clip. I should have spent some time trying to dig that up.
You know what? I'm gonna go with that one because it was either that or go with Marauders. But like I said, there is, like as we've said, no shortage of good picks.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there this week.
And that's just the stuff we've read. Like there's some stuff we didn't get to that I'm sure was probably pretty decent. Like those Curse of the White Knight that I was reading, and a couple other books on the DC front. Which if you notice, it was quite Marvel heavy this week. Which Agent 70 are both more Marvel inclined than not. That's not to say we don't read other stuff, and I don't know why I'm justifying anything. But
there's some weeks that are like that. What's funny about this month is that October is going to have a 5th week of shipping comics, and I think next week is going to be a lot lighter in terms of number of books. So
on the 5th week, that will be where a load of books where they didn't kind of get to, in the beginning of the month, they would just like, all right, here's the rest of the books that we're gonna get out of there. But yeah, this month and actually last month has been kind of fully loaded.
So we'll have a slightly easier time next week getting through our reviews.
I mean, unless there's something like just amazingly good that happens, comes out that week.
Right.
But anyway.
Alrighty. So our first ad read of the night is for Busted Tees. This episode of the Comic Book Chronicles is sponsored by Busted Tees, your home for funny, awesome, cool t-shirts that are sure to get your friends' attention. Busted Tees puts many of their popular shirt designs on sale each week. Choose from several eye-catching t-shirts inspired by pop culture. There are cleverly themed t-shirts inspired by movies, video games, TV shows, comic books, and geek culture, and much more are all on sale. To help keep our podcasts free for you, order from Busted Tees by going to cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link. Click on the Busted Tees banner and then shop for awesome t-shirts. Busted Tees through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news. Sorry,
And
off.
that's all right. That's all right. I should come to expect it at this point. We are starting off with the cinematic news as we tend to do every week. Starting off with live action Cowboy Bebop production put on hold for 7 to 9 months due to John Cho's injury. So Spike got hurt on set apparently. Oh wait, it wasn't on set. So he was in New Zealand. Deadline says that the accident happened on the last take of a routine and well-rehearsed scene, quote unquote, a few episodes into the 10-episode production, and that Cho has returned to Los Angeles for surgery and rehabilitation, which, wow, that's some...
He must have really messed up his knee.
Yeah, really.
That's a sports injury right there. 7 to 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
He must have torn ACLs, ECLs, PCLs, every ligament in his knee, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably another article that goes into what actually happened, which just it's irrelevant. Just hopefully he wishes speedy recovery to the man.
Yes, but for a fan, anyone who is a fan of professionals or even just sports in general knows that when there's a pretty traumatic knee injury, it's a pretty long recovery process. So
Does it say knee?
It does say knee.
Oh, okay.
You have it in the notes in the second line at the end of the second line.
See that? I don't read my own notes. Great.
It's okay. Next up, Taika Waititi is still directing the live action adaptation of the Akira anime after Thor 4. That is good news for fans of Akira.
Nope. Why? I love Taika Waititi so far. He's done well. I'm not sure about that one Hitler movie he just did, but I heard good things about it, supposedly, whatever. Hey, we know his Thor movie is great. Why are you doing Akira? Why? Why is anyone doing it? Don't do it. Let it go. Let it do its thing. That movie is all right by itself. It's okay. We don't need a live action or anything on it. Just I trust you. I'm saying, but no, let it go. Let it go. Anyway,
that's Roddy Cat doing his best.
That's my total editorial, yes, but
his best Elsa impression.
Okay, that's okay, sure. I've not seen Frozen, but yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Scorsese, and excuse me for bringing this up because I told myself I wasn't going to bring this up, but Scorsese and Coppola films better than Black Panther? Come on, says Disney CEO. So apparently, in the number of people that they really need to stop asking their opinions on, someone asked Francis Ford Coppola about it, and he had words about Scorsese's thoughts on Marvel movies or superhero movies in general, or whatever. And apparently, Coppola said that the Marvel Studio films as despicable and not cinema, calling the comments disrespectful. So haterations go and just
oh no, you're quoting Mary.
Wait, what?
Hateration.
That was unintentional, but but it still stands to reason. It's like, really, come on, like
shout out to Mary J. Blige anyway.
Indeed. So but to what causes Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, to say, I'm puzzled by it. During a Wall Street Journal's conference, he says if they want to bitch about movies, it's certainly their right. It seems disrespectful, which that's kind of a lot of people or a bunch of people have been saying, like, hey, it's their right. It also seems disrespectful to all the people who work on those films, who are also working just as hard as the people who are working on their films, there being Coppola's and Scorsese's films, and are putting their creative souls on the line just like they are. So that's a nice metered, rebuttal from Bob Iger. Shout out to him for that one. But he also goes on to say, are you telling me that Ryan Coogler, which it was weird that he brought that particular movie up,
I think I know why.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. But I'm just saying, at first it was like, why would you do that? But it goes on to say, are you telling me that Ryan Coogler making Black Panther is doing something that somehow or another is less than anything Marty Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola has ever done, or any one of their movies? Which, valid point. And then he says, that's when he says, come on. And apparently, in the director's commentary for Black Panther, Coogler apparently screened the movie for Francis Ford Coppola because he being a big fan of his. Coogler for Coppola, and it says here, as soon as the movie was off, he said, rewind it to the most important scene in the movie. Coogler said, the scene where everything changes. I guess that's what Coppola said about Coogler during screening. So, yeah, let's stop asking these fools their opinion on whatever. If they don't like it, whatever. But look, we don't have to keep asking everybody and their grandmother their opinion on what this one fool says.
I mean, ultimately, they are entitled to their opinions, but you know, it's one opinion.
We don't have to keep asking them for it
in the sea of many.
Right.
It's just interesting that it's always the pop culture film of the day that is going to draw that kind of criticism.
Yeah, and it's I'm like, really, just because your movies or whatever, you're not, your movies weren't seen at art at one point, and probably still aren't in some people's eyes.
Right. Next up, according to our own Bucky, Sebastian Stan, Marvel's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to begin filming this week. And it's going to feature the aftermath of Steve Rogers retiring and leaving the Shield to Sam Wilson. So it's going to be a 6-episode series.
Mm-hmm. So looking forward to that. Can you imagine Bucky at this point?
I was just going to say that basically breaks down, if assuming that the shows are roughly 40 minutes to an hour, that basically breaks down into 3 movies.
Yeah, and that's how they've been reportedly filming them as movies. So yeah. As this and other shows, not as I've heard or as we've actually reported. Now that I think about it,
you were saying?
I was just asking if can you see anybody else as Bucky at this point?
Nope.
I don't know what made me think about that, but sometimes it's like, yeah, he is the dude now. Verizon.
I was going to say just to hold on to that thought. Just because he made such a convincing Winter Soldier that it kind of felt, obviously he's out of place fighting against faceless alien army hordes, but he was such a kind of an unstoppable force in Winter Soldier that you're kind of waiting for him to get back to that.
I mean, but to be fair, being Winter Soldier as we know him, it's kind of not that much. Like he's kind of the silent dude, just runs in with guns. He's obviously calculated. There's more to him than just that, obviously, but it doesn't. Right. Yes, it's much playing, but not that much.
Right? They don't get to portray him like that often. Right. It's every once in a while.
Like could have been Oscar Isaac, but I don't think he was ever in the running. But I don't know. That was just a name that whatever. So anyway. Verizon gives customers 1 free year of Disney Plus access. The caveat being, and this is whether you're a new Verizon customer or a customer that has an unlimited plan. It says starting November 12th, get your first year of Disney Plus on us with unlimited, or when you switch to Fios Home Internet or 5G Home Internet. Because I know there has been some questions about what's like. Okay. Like I have Verizon. This is not an ad for them, but I'm just saying, it's like, could I get this? And it doesn't sound like I can.
No, you have to be a new customer, which sucks because
you can be an existing customer, but you have to already have a certain plan.
No, you can be an existing cellular customer, which I am not. But in terms of
what I'm saying is I am, but I can't get into this because I don't have an unlimited.
Oh, I see.
Right, you have to have an unlimited plan.
Right, I have the home service. I have Fios at home, so it's.
Wait, do you have Verizon Fios?
Yes, but it's only for new customers.
Then no, because from what I've read, you can be an existing Fios customer.
Oh, that must be. I was about to say I'll have to look into it then. I also have to mention that just as an aside, it seems like Movies Anywhere and Fios have reached an agreement to be content sharers again.
Okay, which I guess Movies Anywhere is kind of still Disney.
Movies Anywhere, yeah, because it used to be Disney Anywhere.
Right.
And
Which, by the way, folks, if you are, I don't know if you are in movies anywhere, and you may have gotten emails about, hey, your connections to other all your service places like Google Play and Apple iTunes and like that. Make sure you get that out of the way, because actually the time might be up for that, because I think it was the 20th. But
in order to
to reconnect your status with those, so you can get all your content.
I gotcha.
So anyway, I'm sorry. What else you were gonna say?
No, that was it. Just that Movies Anywhere has reached a deal with Verizon to connect. So
pray they don't alter it further.
You know it will. All right, next up, former head of Marvel Television Jeff Loeb is expected to leave the company in a report from Variety. He's apparently in the market for a new exclusive deal with outside studios as a producer. He's been with Marvel since 2010 as a producer, and obviously before that, we knew him as writer of several comics.
Mm-hmm. It still trips me out that he was part writer of Terminator, or was it Terminator? Yeah, that's crazy. Was it Predator or Terminator? One of those movies. I think it was Predator. It's Predator, which is still trippy to me.
Okay,
he's been writing for a long time. Anywho, so yeah, that is that, and the story's been updated, and apparently it is what it is. Gargoyles creator teases fan. Oh, teases. That's a weird sentence. Gargoyles creator teases fan that the series could return. Like, I get it, but that's still weird. Anyway, apparently someone on Twitter asked Greg Weisman, who we know as the showrunner on Young Justice, who also used to run Gargoyles, if you did not know that, to spoil some stuff about stuff that he would have used if the show was still around. To which he replies, "Sometimes things come back." Now we also know that Gargoyles is going to be on Google Play, Disney Plus when it comes in next month. So I guess he is saying that maybe could be possibly coming in something in the works from that as a re-up. And there has been kind of rumblings of rumors of, there have been people like Keith David saying like, "Hey, I'd come back if they do it," and people have been wanting Gargoyles to come back because apparently people really like that show.
It's really good. Have you watched it?
I've only watched like a couple of episodes. Like, and I know it had the cast was great, and it was like, and it went places basically, and it was kind of dark. But I was never like, I can't say it was past my time because I was still watching like the Disney afternoon at that point. So for some reason I missed this one.
I watched the first 2 seasons, and my understanding is that those were the best. And
Right.
I think the 3rd season fell off, and it went into a very different direction.
Right.
But I didn't really get to watch that. But now that it's back on Disney Plus, I'll be able to catch up on it.
Yes.
Gargoyles, as you've mentioned, had a great voice cast, had lots of alumni from Star Trek, and it was just very cool and had a great concept behind it. So I'm looking forward to the possibility, at least, of the show coming back, especially with renewed interest and more eyes on it, given its release on streaming.
Yep. So you can look forward to that November 12th.
All right. Next up, I'm going to preface this next story with a particular sound effect, and that is.
As a matter of fact, you can go ahead and take the next 1, 2, 3 of since they're all related.
Yeah. So tickets for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which closes out the 9-film 42-year saga. Really got to rub that in. This December went on sale this past Monday. The final trailer aired during halftime of the Monday Night Football game, and after that, sales opened up. You can watch the final trailer online now. And did you happen to catch it?
I most certainly did, a couple of different times.
Yeah, so I watched it during halftime of the game, and I watched it afterwards on the internet, and had a chance to pick it apart thanks to one half of the Binge Mode podcast hosts,
of course,
online.
Yeah.
And last, The Rise of Skywalker shattered the Avengers Endgame first hour ticket pre-sale record. That is not surprising, given the fact that Star Wars fandom is 42 years along.
Yes, and some of us are slightly older than that.
Right.
And I will take this opportunity to say that we may or may not have movie protocol on the night that it opens because one of us has a 10 o'clock showing that night, unless somebody else is going to do a show on the 19th. Yes,
The opening night?
the opening night. Well,
we'll see. I generally,
opening night, I guess.
I was about to say, I generally, if I get a show, it's definitely not going to be in time for me to get back. So,
yeah. And so there's no way I'm gonna get back to do a show. That's far too late.
Try to get? I was about to say, did you try to get earlier and found yourself shut out?
Basically, the only tickets they had left was because when I got my tickets, it wasn't first day. It was like the next day and that, which I knew was going to be a problem. But and the only tickets, and even the tickets I got, were not terribly great, but they were better than the ones for the first showing.
Understood.
And since I don't do 3D, which I know those are probably going, out also, that wasn't going to work for me.
Understood.
So yeah, possible movie protocol on the 19th of December. Stay tuned for that. But what did you think of the trailer?
I liked it. It was good. There were a lot of little nods. I'm really hoping that the rumor that Chewie bites the bullet is are false, because that would be very annoying to me.
But also something that was in the extended universe,
right?
Sadly.
But given the fact that I didn't, I wasn't very invested in the extended universe, it would be, as you mentioned, it would probably be much more tolerated by those who were up on the extended universe stuff.
Oh no, it wasn't tolerated then. They hated it. They hated it, especially the way it happened. But what happened? Because I heard about it and I was like, oh hell no, why would you do that?
I'm not looking forward to that aspect because somebody's got to go, obviously.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's not like we haven't had a shortage of people that have already left, already, who are still going to be in the film,
right?
But yeah, and apparently, there's also there's a theory about 3PO,
right?
Actually meeting us in this one. I'm like, no, don't let that happen either. But that one line he said in the trailer was slightly ominous.
Sure.
No, context aside, still. So anyway, yeah, if you haven't watched it by now, and I don't know what's wrong with you, but you might not be a Star Wars fan. If that's fine.
And if you are, get to it.
And all right. Well, if you are, you probably have seen it a half a dozen times and picked it apart, just like half a dozen articles and podcasts have done at this point. Never Surrender trailer. Galaxy Quest documentary hits theaters for 1 day only. Which is, you would think, is a weird day to do this one, but I get it. As the cult classic nears its 20th anniversary, premiering on, oh wait, I'm sorry, that was the premiere of I didn't know we did that. Premiering on December 20th, 1999. Anyway, Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary explores how the science fiction comedy became an enduring fan favorite. I will go ahead and say that it's a movie that I have just seen probably for the first time 2, maybe 3 years ago, because people talk the hell out of it up. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyway, November 26th, only Fathom Events and Fandom presents the theatrical premiere of said Galaxy Quest documentary, which includes exclusive behind-the-scenes footage and a 10-minute introduction featuring cast members of Screen Junkies and hopefully a sober Tim Allen, who I don't care for him right now.
Yeah, he can go, jump in a lake or something.
Yeah, but hey, if you are a fan of Galaxy Quest so this is not totally unlike what they did with the DS9 documentary, which I still need to get a physical copy of that.
Is it streaming anywhere?
I don't believe so. Because the last time you asked me that, I know they have like the site that is the shop factory who did the printing and whatnot. I thought that it was on that site, but it's not. It is the panel from Comic-Con.
Okay.
About said thing, and I don't. And the last time I checked, they do not have it streaming there yet. I suspect it will probably be up there at some point, probably in a couple months, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I have not, as far as I know, I have not seen it anywhere else streaming.
Alrighty.
So yeah, Galaxy Quest documentary. Go for it if you've to Infinity and Beyond. Wait, that's the wrong movie.
Next up, Nigerian animated movie Malika Warrior Queen made its first big screen debut at the 8th edition of the Lagos Comic Convention. The 15-minute film received critical acclaim and was not funded by Nigerian princes sending you emails.
Oh God.
Or was it?
I shouldn't be, no, don't do that. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but hey, that was an obvious. So the film is an adaptation of a comic book by the comic creators. I don't want to butcher their names, but it's Unique Studios. That's YOUNEEK Studios. Like, I remember seeing the Free Comic Book Day issue that I don't think I've still read. Now that I think about it, no, I did read it, and it was all right. From last year, I believe it was. It was either last year or this year. I can't remember, but I know it was in the last couple of years that I read that Free Comic Book Day, and it's probably out there in Comixology or someplace, so you can check that out if you're interested. And it was all right. So, you know, I had not kept up with it, and this was, you know, a smaller book. And that's not saying that's not the reason why we didn't, but whatever. So yeah, apparently, as far as the film is concerned, it was produced in 10 months on a $60,000 budget by Ant Hill Studios, a visual media company based in Nigeria. So that in itself is dope. Films coming out of Nigeria and any parts of Africa where stuff's being done. Because I know I don't know if it was Nigeria or someplace else where there's a budding film industry over there. You know, using like cell phones and stuff, and even whatever equipment they can get, and doing some really great work. So anytime you hear something like this is great, so I don't know if it's ever going to come over here at any point, but here's hoping. So unless you can track that down somewhere and you're a fan of that book, you will have probably tracked that down or some way. Next up, that's me, isn't it? Jason Reitman posts rap photo from the set of Ghostbusters 2020. So Ghostbusters 2020, I don't think that's the that can't be the actual name of it. That was just a working title, I assume. Is, as one would figure, or has been said actually, it's the successor to the first two actual Ghostbusters movies. So, and if not most, if not all of the original cast, minus Egon, whose name I actually can't remember because he has passed, is returning back, and other notables. No, names are escaping me. There's somebody that I don't believe is coming back. But I can't remember who it is, so it doesn't matter. The Keymaster, or whatever. Not the Keymaster, other dude, and I know his name. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids guy. Rick Moranis. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is. I was about to say I would have.
It was getting there. It was getting there. I'm getting old.
Digging into the old memory banks myself. So
yeah. But I don't think there's any word of him coming back. Which sure, but a bunch of other people. Apparently, Bokeem Woodbine is in this. That part I did not know. So it sounds like they're doing the like, I know they've done this in the comics. It's like, hey, the Ghostbusters are there, but they're mentoring other folks. I don't know if that's the actual premise or not, but so it sounds like there may be a new age of a new set of Ghostbusters, and they're in control and on their own.
Oh no!
Yes.
Shout out to Bobby Brown.
No, that's not.
All right. Next up, having been cast as Catwoman in the upcoming Batman, Zoe Kravitz is apparently the actor in the most superhero franchises. In this article,
I totally forgot about this.
right? In this article, the article cites that now that she's Catwoman in the Batman, that's actually not her first time as Catwoman. She provided the voice of Catwoman in the Lego Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the voice of Mary Jane in Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that she was in
X-Men
those
First
very
Class.
forgettable X-Men movies.
That one wasn't bad.
Was it the First Class movie?
First Class, yeah. People like First Class. There wasn't. Well, there was some bad parts about it, but it wasn't.
I tend to forget a lot of the X-Men stuff.
And that's a good thing. That's not a. I'm kind of with you on it. But yeah, she played Angel in First Class, and
Not the winged angel, but an angel character that had been created for the movie.
But yeah, that was a character I was like, I haven't read in the comics. I'm like, okay, sure, all right. But yeah, so yes, not her first rodeo with the comic stuff. So that was just an article that kind of put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Leto tried to cancel DC's Joker movie. Why didn't that happen? Why couldn't he failed, and he had one job, but apparently, I don't know. There were reports that I know obviously these are it's hearsay. It's like he basically tried to go after the director.
Really?
And go away. That I don't know. That was kind of floating around out there. I don't know if this is. I don't know. So, and Jared Leto is kind of I don't want to say volatile, but that sounds like that might be the right word for it in respects to certain things. But regardless, so apparently, Jared Leto, the Suicide Squad Joker, which I did not like his Joker. You would probably try to fight me for saying that, whatever. But his portrayal of the comics around, well, people seem to like that one, but those people are silly. But regardless, when the new Joker project came up, he was none too happy about the fact that it was being done. Let's just say, and according to Hollywood Reporter, Leto's efforts were not limited to complaining to his agents. He also asked his music manager to reach out to leaders of Warner's parent company to stop it. So yeah, and apparently that may or may not have happened, and some things actually happened to that. But regardless, he kind of went some ways to try to, I guess he felt owed the part, so therefore he felt some kind of way that it was being done without him in it, which I feel like we may have actually heard this before when this was first announced, but I'm not sure why it's coming up now. Well, actually, we do know why it's coming up now because the movie's out.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, sure.
All right, next up. Speaking of this Joker movie, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to get people to stop posting the Bronx stairs that are in apparently a now very memeable scene from the movie. They're putting people getting their picture taken there and posting on social media. It's just becoming very popular. And it's been and I've never been to these stairs in the Bronx, but I had having read some stories about it, obviously in more dangerous times, these were not the safest. This was not the safest place to walk.
Right, which was why she wants people to stop getting on social media with pictures of this place.
Right.
It's not necessarily sacred, but basically, it's a place of note. She says here, the Bronx is much safer now, and I'm happy to say that. But I think the way a lot of us feel is keep your Instagram posts outside of the boogie down. This is for us, which is fair, absolutely fair. Shout out to AOC. DC's Wonder Woman 1984 trailer debut date revealed. So not the trailer, just the debut. Boy, we are in a world where this is a thing. Like, hey, we got back in our day, we didn't know about the trailer coming out until it came out.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing now.
Yeah, but we get articles on, because news cycles being what it is, trailers. The release date for the trailer is news. So WB announced that the first trailer for the upcoming sequel will debut at Comic-Con Experience in Sao Paulo and Brazil on Sunday, November 8th.
Okay.
the trailer will premiere doing a presentation in CCXP's Dunder Hall and presumably go live shortly after that, because I believe there is also a panel that with Patty Jenkins and folk.
Gotcha.
That is going to be presented at. So
yeah, apparently only Star Wars and Marvel stuff gets to go on because it's ABC on Monday Night Football.
Well, I mean, hey, synergy, brand synergy.
Exactly. So next up, speaking of DC's Wonder Woman 1984, director Patty Jenkins officially welcomed DC villain Maxwell Lord to the cast of the film in a post on Twitter. Lord's going to be played by the Mandalorian star Pedro Pascal, joins Kristen Wiig's Cheetah as the film's antagonists.
That's a weird that casting right there has always been one that's like, yeah, I see it, but at the same time, that's still weird. The Kristen Wiig one.
Oh yeah,
but hey, we'll see when that happens. So yeah, Maxwell Lord is going to be a villain. So now we know what Pedro Pascal is going to be playing. Again, my DC history is kind of spotty. I believe, is he not the one that killed Blue Beetle?
Think so. But, my DC history is just as spotty.
I'm sure it may probably, it says here is a Justice League villain. And I feel like I remember reading something, it might have been like 52 or something, where they did square off, or she thought she killed him or something like that. Wonder Woman thought she killed him or something like that. But hey, you know what? That's research for another day in time. Arrow destroyed, spoiler, to start Crisis on Infinite Earths. So apparently,
Can I ring the
bell? Sure. Arrow Season 8 kicked off Crisis of Infinite Earths with a literal bang by destroying Earth 2. So, yeah.
Okay.
CW's namesake flagship series is now in its final series, which we already knew, building up to this year's massive Arrowverse crossover. After the events of Arrow Season 7, Oliver Queen left his world, Earth 1, you know what? Not going into that. To join the Monitor in a quest to... Is Earth 1 the prime?
No idea.
Okay, yeah.
I knew you were going to ask that, and I'm like,
I didn't. Well, that was going to be one question, but yeah. In a quest to prevent this destruction of the multiverse, and apparently it already happened with Earth 2. So I'm like, I feel like, I don't know, somebody from DC. You don't have to answer that because it's irrelevant at the end of the day. So yeah, that's the thing that's going on right now. I'm still not caught up on Arrowverse. Next up, Black Lightning is raising the stakes.
I was about to say, speaking of not being up on Black Lightning, I was going to read this story and be like, so that's what happened last season?
yeah. And I put this in here and I'm still not caught up. There's spoilers for what has happened in Black Lightning, but apparently, there's some things going on with Black Lightning and crew in certain federal agencies, I guess. Let's just say. And I suspect, knowing Black Lightning, there's probably even a reference to certain experiments of the past, but I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. I want to catch up. I plan to at some point. We'll see. There's a lot of shows in the camp now, that especially since Black Lightning is now in the Arrowverse. Next up,
She-Ra and the Princesses of Power adds Jacob Tobiah as non-binary shapeshifter Double Trouble. That is a new so Catra's got a powerful new ally at her side. So okay.
Yeah, I don't know if this is if this character is someone I suspect is like somebody brand new, and and not that was already established in the canon, I guess, and I'm not first on She-Ra's bench either, so that's not, or He-Man's for that matter, to a certain point, but regardless. So yeah, cool. I'm not up on the She-Ra, but I heard good things about it. Watch Vin Diesel come back to life in Bloodshot trailer. Have you seen this?
I have.
What'd you think?
It's nothing that we haven't seen before, but I was disappointed that they didn't go full Bloodshot in the trailer just to show us, what it looked like.
Right. Yeah, I
Even
guess
if it was just in shadow, you know.
it's
When I
probably
say full bloodshot, yeah, when I say full bloodshot, what I mean is the whole, like white skin and red
oh,
dot.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's probably something that's probably gonna be at the like, hey, coming out of the movie, he will be at that point.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think.
it'll be at the end.
Yeah, but yeah, so I watched this and I was like, okay, so triple X with nanites.
I like the depiction of the nanites, though. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
It was a cool effect, especially when I said, because when I saw it on YouTube before even pulling this article, I was like, huh, that's a striking picture, because it was the one where apparently he got shot in the face or something,
Right. Well, there's the up close where you're looking at his hands, and I really
Right.
I like the special effects that they conjured up to make that look convincing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we get a little bit of what is going to be going on during the course of that story. Which, if you know anything about Bloodshot, all one or two of you, then you know more about it than either one of us,
Right.
or probably anybody on this panel who here or not here. Now that I think about it, 'cause I don't think too many of us have read any much Valiant.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
right,
next thing that's coming away. When is it? Does it say when is it? There's no. Oh,
Sometime-
February 1.
Yeah,
February
sometime
21,
next year.
2020.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We may stay tuned. Next up,
We will see. Next up, it was announced that Adventure Time Distant Lands 4 new specials will be coming to the HBO Max streaming service. So for fans of
don't say the thing.
I'm sorry?
You didn't say the thing.
What thing?
The line that's right there in the title.
Mathematical?
Yes. Come on, you gotta get more.
I don't watch the show.
I know. Mathematical. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
mean, HBO Max, they're looking for content left and right. They're
and it is a Warner card.
pulling the West Wing off of Netflix for that.
Well, yeah, like I said, it is Avengers is on Cartoon Network, which is a Warner property, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I think Adventure Time, the show just ended probably a year or two ago, so it's still relatively fresh. Yeah, 2018 was when it 10-season run from 2010 to wait, what? That doesn't. Oh yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. The math doesn't check out, but okay. Sure. Regardless, yeah. So there you go. Fans of Adventure Time, rejoice. I guess you get a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Last in the cinematic news, which granted has very little to do with.
We have one story spilling over.
Actually, yeah, you're right. You're right, because there was one I put in there earlier. I forgot. Sorry. So the penultimate news for the cinematic part. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas movie coming from Flight of the Conchords star. So for those of you of a certain vintage, you know of a little Jim Henson production that ran on HBO. Speaking of, back in the day, actually in the early days of HBO, I would dare say, called Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And now somebody, Brent McKenzie of Flight of the Conchords, I've heard of that name, but I have no idea whatever. Is going to do a movie on Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And if I had the sound clip queued up, there would have been some River Bottom Night Bear band going right now. Just so you know. I don't even know if they even play Emmett Otter anymore.
Oh, I'm just like
Emmett Otter?
I'm looking for the right sound effect for this. Seriously. I'm just like
Oh man, Emmett Otter's Jug, man, it was dope. I mean, granted, it's a tale that's been kind of done before, but still, or a similar like tale, but it was great. I loved it.
Okay. No problem.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe this one's less known than I know. I feel like somebody out there knows Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, like watching.
I'm sure they do.
Like you haven't seen it. Might be on HBO Go or Max or one of those things, and maybe you'll meet at Max at some point. So since they're doing this, but apparently, this Brett McKenzie person will write the script and music for a new adaptation, and apparently he's done some work for Jim Henson and the Muppets before, so he's, I guess, in tuned with the Muppetness. So good for him. Next and up.
Right. Our last bit of movie news is sad news. We are sad to report that this just dropped, that the Marvel live action series Cloak and Dagger has been canceled on the Freeform network. The series aired its second season back in April, and it's it's a shame because I actually liked the show. It was fun,
and a few other people that I've come across have liked the show. And just an addendum, so I won't have to put it in there next week. Cloak and Dagger showrunner breaks silence over show's cancellation. So there's, I will probably put that in the show notes. Also,
cool.
He goes out there on Twitter and talks about his feelings about it. So
right. It sucks, but we're going to see these characters on Runaways.
We would, yes, we are, because that crossover is coming relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and granted, the season is going to end out. So I mean, whatever, you kind of hate it because if they, these sudden cancellations like this, and they probably had I don't know if they had time to kind of be like, well, we need to end this, or it's just going to be cliffhanger. If they had one set for the ending of this, not knowing. But again, I think a lot of shows now kind of build that in. It's like, well, we don't know if we're going to come back next season, so we're kind of end off
right
at a certain point. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out.
Alrighty, and
people are speculating that it's going to end up on Disney Plus, and I don't know how confident
over to Hulu,
but yeah. But
it all depends on I was going to say it all depends on the direction that Feige wants to take it, because they're probably going to look to start as fresh as possible with Marvel Television now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've kind of seen this stuff in the past where with the animated shows also. Mm-hmm. So this is it's not outside the realm of possibility. That's why we got Avengers Number now, as opposed to Earth Mightiest Heroes getting canceled. And yeah, I'm still kind of bitter about that, but whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Although we are getting Earth's Mightiest on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken.
We are, yeah. We talked about it last week. We're also getting that 190s Avengers show with a little scene Tigra.
Oh no. Anyway,
that wasn't a terrible show, but yeah,
I barely watched.
Yeah.
Although I remember that
all those 90 shows, they were kind of along the same. The Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, they all kind of had that their little formula. The Avengers one and the Iron Man one, which again, Force Works could have been.
But what I was going to mention about that is that was the genesis of the armored look for Falcon.
Yes.
So that's what I remember. That's what I distinctly
remember. Mightiest Heroes
show. Yeah. No, not Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
The 90s one.
Yeah,
you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to transition now into comic book news.
Yep.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Wonder Woman unraveling thanks to Cersei in Justice League Dark number 16 issue. Oh, and this will be the time that I will go ahead and say that January 2020 solicits are out. So some of this news is coming off of that. This not being one of them, but just to get ahead of that. Deep in the basement of the archives of the Hall of Justice, home to the most dangerous magic to the Justice League ever counted, there's an artifact so powerful it corrupt the world in half because they don't have enough going on with Perpetua and whatnot. Cersei knows it's there in Justice League at her side. Nobody will stop her from obtaining it. The witching war strikes close to home. Which, wait, is that still going on? Because that was the thing that started this whole Justice League Dark this volume. Don't know. Regardless, that's a thing. Those preview pages you can check out if you're so inclined.
Alrighty. Next up, the landmark Wonder Woman number 750 is going to be released in comic book stores on January 22nd, 2020. It's a 96-page tribute to Wonder Woman, and it's going to have stories from lots of writers, such as Greg Rucka and Gail Simone, as well as Vita Ayala and Marguerite Bennett. And there's going to be plenty of artists on it as well, including, I don't know if you have this as a separate story, but my understanding is that George Perez is going to do his farewell story to Wonder Woman in this book as well. And that's what Gail Simone is scripting.
Right. It might be in this, and I thought I may have seen that article, but I may not have pulled it.
Okay.
But yes, you see the cover by Joel Jones if you're watching the video, which you should sometimes because hey, you can see some stuff. Bendis promises Superman's identity reveal is not a fake out. So yeah, apparently Bendis is killing off Clark Kent, and it's not a hoax, it's not a ploy, and whatever else they usually say in comics.
Are we going to get a one more day out of that eventually?
Oh Jesus! Wait, was that him? Did he do one more day?
No, but I'm just saying.
I know, but wait, that sounds like
the genie back in the bottle at some point.
Yeah, I mean probably, but it won't be him, and won't be probably anytime soon. According to this, because he says, and I quote, "I don't do fake out stories." Bendis explained, "I did a story where Daredevil was outed, a different kind of outing, but that was his reality for 15 years."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's been in contact with him is going to have a completely different perspective and reaction to this. This is true, especially with what's going on in Lois Lane, but that's this whole little side point, I guess. Even if that book even addresses it. But hey, Superman 18 is due out December 11th, followed by Superman Heroes and some other stuff. We'll also start dealing out. And apparently there are other writers who are like Fraction and other and Greg Rucker or whatever are quote unquote hundreds of story pages in, so they will be reacting to this. So
okay.
someone will probably, I'm sure we'll be talking about it. Sure.
Yeah,
Next.
We'll see. So James Tynion IV is going to be taking over Batman in January, and he has an incredibly emotional story up his sleeve for the character. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to stay on Batman. I'm definitely going to give the book a try because it's going to be with Tony Daniel on art. So it should be pretty cool to look at. So we will see where Tynion takes the book from here.
And I feel like that emotion. I feel like that's what King was trying to do with his run.
Mm-hmm. It just took a while to get there, and I think that's what frustrated a lot of readers.
Right, but the fact that Tynion's come along and saying he's going to do something that presumably also was trying to be done, I could say something about the state of Batman fandom, but we won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Snyder exiting Justice League in January. So again, coming from the solicits, Scott Snyder, Superstar Scribes, not Scott Snyder, say that 5 times fast, says farewell to the Justice League with a special story that winds down all of the things he started in issue 1. And boy, if I remember correctly, was a lot, especially with what's going on now.
Right.
And nods towards everything that comes next in the DC universe. Snyder's next plans aren't announced, although we did talk about the thing he's doing with Capullo, which is the spiritual successor to Dark Knight's Metal. So Justice League 39 will be Snyder's, and actually I'm going to take this next one because it's also going to be because it's also going to be the last for Jorge Jimenez, who is also exiting the book on that same issue to do something bigger coming, which is a cute picture of him and his kid in Superman attire. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Says, friends, doing my last Justice League issues too, but I'm so happy and so grateful to be able to work in one of the pillars of DC Comics series, sharing with great artists and the amazing and bro Scott Snyder. I hope you enjoyed our super epic last issues. It was what he says. So I don't believe there is any word on who's coming onto the book after this. But I'm sure we will find out. Or maybe it might be this next one. No, it's not the next one. Which is
DC's Birds of Prey ongoing has been cut to a 96-page one-shot that's going to come out at the end of January 2020.
So, yeah. So apparently, that ongoing is now what they said, and I don't believe there's no reason that's been given for it.
Mm-hmm.
So. Next up, Black Canary Ignite is a graphic novel from New York Times bestselling author Meg Cabot, who apparently wrote The Princess Diaries. It sounds like it is 13-year-old Dinah Lance knows exactly what she wants, who she is, and where she's going. First, she'll win the battles of the bands with her two best friends. I wonder if that has anything to do with that that volume of Black Inner, which is a very good book. You should read it. It's pretty good. That I can't remember who wrote it, who was the creative team. Regardless, then she'll join the Gotham City Police Academy, so she'll solve crimes just like her dad. Who knows? Her rock group of friends may even save the world, but first they'll need to agree on a band name. So yeah, that is a graphic novel that is coming actually next week, 10/29. So if you're so inclined to get that for your young one, do so. Next.
Alrighty. So in Flash Forward number 2, which I have not read,
Same here.
the Flash took on the DC equivalents of the Avengers and X-Men and won pretty handily. Although we did not see, I don't believe, some of the more powerful members, the analogs for the more powerful members of the teams.
And the article goes into the same question I had. Who are DC's Avengers and X-Men stand-ins? Because DC's...
It's like a universe.
Yeah, I mean, Avengers is... obviously, we know who that is, but the X-Men one was like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that is that. Neither one of us have read it yet. Go figure. DC introduces new Prestige Plus format in 2020. So this basically sounds like what the Black Label is now, to a point. So it says here, Prestige Plus is a new name for a format that DC introduced earlier this year for some of its DC Black Label titles. Square-bound comic books that measure 8.5 by 10, 8.75, and come with cardstock covers. If you picked up the print editions of Superman Year One or Joker Harley Criminal Insanity, you've already seen the format, but now it has a name. So how does it differ from DC's long-standing Prestige format? Well, size difference. So that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The upcoming Joker Killer Smile and the deaths of Vic Sage, which I think pretty sure we talked about last week, will be solicited under this new format. So okay.
All righty. Next up, He-Man Unite in He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse First Look. Okay, I did not know this was coming.
Yeah, well, we talked about it in person. Because the thing, yeah, we talked about it a couple of months ago. I know that this was coming. So yeah, so there's a preview page for it, and I guess it's coming in. It must be a January thing.
Alrighty.
Because you can see the pages here, and there's I'm not going to scroll down that much farther, but yes. So I'm weirdly, given the stuff that's been going on in that part of the universe, some of which I still need to catch up on, and some of the stuff I have caught up on, it's interesting to a point. And I guess this was something like this was bound to happen. Next up, Sarah Beatty. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that name right. Beatty or Beatty? I'm going to go with Beatty. Zooms into comics for sex-positive sci-fi money shot. Mature warning. So, says here, space exploration has been a dream for mankind for centuries, but here now we can travel in space. The only thing holding us from doing that is money. Tim Seeley has found a possible answer to that: porn.
Okay.
And needed in a secret weapon of sorts to tell that story. Comedian actor Sarah Beatty. Beatty has apparently written for Saturday Night Live, and she's popular on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know this person. So sounds interesting.
Yep.
Next.
The upcoming Deadpool relaunch has hit a little snag, and Marvel has shifted the first 2 issues back on the schedule. So the debut issue is now set to release November 20th, a week later than originally solicited, and number 2 is moving 2 weeks from December 4th to December 18th. Really not that big a deal.
No, not really, but yeah, whatever. What is a big deal? Not really. Rob Liefeld exits Marvel after tweeting about shady business practices. You know what? After running your mouth off that, it's probably good that you were leaving because you probably weren't going to get too much work after that. Rightfully. Anywho, he says, so this is my last original cover for Marvel for the foreseeable future. If I was Marvel, I'd be the blackballed behind forever and a day. But I know it's probably not going to happen. That's just me editorializing. After doing 100 covers for the last few years, I'm taking a pause. I'm not continuing any interiors as I've put those on hold as well. G.I. Joe Snake Eyes and Creator Owns are on the desk, he says. So,
Okay.
So yeah, no more Marvel work for him for a while, which probably is good riddance.
I was about to say it's just another stage in the never-ending cycle of Rob Liefeld not getting along with other people in the comic industry.
Mm-hmm. Which he was doing that Major X book, I guess. So I'm guessing that's probably dying too. Hopefully.
Right. So
but next.
Right. The next story is basically going to echo stuff that I heard and that I heard in person from writer Benjamin Percy at New York Comic Con. This article that we're referencing in our news story is about Benjamin Percy and how his Dawn of X Wolverine title in the new year is going to dive into a deep, dark well of violence and atonement.
Okay. I was going to say you skipped one, but that was me switching the order.
I'm like, no, we just talked about Rob Liefeld. So
yeah, I know. I know because I had all that stuff together, but I thought that other one that I had up was before this. So never mind. Keep going.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that's it's stuff that I've spoken about before, having spoken to Ben Percy at length, and having shared it on the show. That he's definitely sold me on his take on the book, and he's putting a lot of his character, his own character, into the book, which sounds like it's going to be a very fun take on Wolverine.
I see. The bigger problem is my link was busted.
Okay.
Or rather, I had copied the wrong link. I copied the link somehow stupidly. But yeah, so yeah, that's the thing. And I know you're kind of stoked about this book.
Yes, I'm excited. Definitely excited.
So cool. Next up on the X fronts, boop, 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 boop. The X-Men. That Ultimate Marvel Universe theory has officially been addressed. Wait, is this?
I read this and it was funny.
Okay, why do I have this in that many times? So yeah, so apparently there was a theory saying that because of the type of font that was being used, and I know we have talked about something like that in the past with something similar like that in the past with Hickman's new X-Men run. I mean, new Avengers. Wait, this is Avengers run.
Mm-hmm.
But so apparently, he was asked about his choice of fonts, and people were basically saying that goes back to the Ultimate Universe's X-Men and has some ties with that. Hickman says, nah, just was better on space, so he went with that. That's all. There was nothing else to it, just space. It's good for lettering.
It was a pretty funny debunking of this particular conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
it came up on our show.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, we've kind of mentioned it in the past. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's it. Sometimes you know what? Sometimes it's a cigar.
Straightforward. Sometimes it just is so pragmatic and practical to be, you can't believe it, but that's what it was.
Right. The funny part about it was what he says here. He basically goes on and says like, yeah, we ended up using Helvetica, the fonts used. They were not just users, but he was like, I like looking at a page and seeing the finished art, not the word balloons. Fight me. Hickman. And I feel like he said it just like that. But
I believe it.
Next up.
So we discussed this book earlier. We did ring the spoiler bell, but there was a big secret behind Kate Pryde's mission in the Marauders book. So we're not going to spoil it, but definitely it's an intriguing premise for the start of this book.
Yep. New age for mutants dawns in the dawn of X. So basically, this is the trade paperback is coming out, and this was an article stating just that. It's going to be $24.99. It is going to be basically the number one issues of all the new books that are coming out. So, which seeing that we're just too deep into that right now, then still early yet. But then wait, when is it coming? Well, probably January, February. Because those books are still, like I said, coming out. So it'll be shortly after that. So check that out if you feel inclined.
Next up, Felicia Hardy gets her claws into Spider-Man in the upcoming Black Cat Annual #1. It's a pretty funny tease because the cover makes it look like Spidey and the Black Cat are getting married. And
which, if you're watching the video, you can see said cover.
Right. And it's out very soon, actually. November 13th. It's written by Jed McKay with art by Natasha Bustos, Juan Gideon, and Joey Vasquez. So it is sure to have some strong art, and I'm pretty sure there's a J. Scott Campbell cover for this book as well. There it is. There it is. If anyone wants,
you're welcome. There you go. Yes, exactly. It's because it was bound to happen. But no, I've already seen that. So yeah, we had kind of teased this prior to this, and now we have a little bit more information and covers of it. So yeah.
And it's written by the regular series writer, so it should be a good story and be consistent with what we've read so far.
Yep, that checks out. Marvel launches new Daily Bugle title led by Robbie Robertson, meaning the book, not the writing of it. So apparently it's 5 issues. It's going to be tackling events. So it's going to be another miniseries that's kind of spinning out of Amazing Spider-Man. And this tale will be chock full of twists and turns as the Daily Bugle digs into the past to uncover the daily's truths. Guiding us on this winding journey will be Matt Johnson, who's the writer, who will be making his Marvel Comics debut, as well as Mac Chatter, known for his acclaimed work on books like Black Panther and The Crew. Oh, man.
What?
Man.
Bringing back memories?
Yes.
Catching feelings? No, I'm kidding.
That book died too doggone young. Anyway, so this will be one story worth chasing, and you can read about it this January. So, yeah, so that's another miniseries.
I was going to say it's going to be very different from what we expect from a Daily Bugle because it's not a newspaper anymore.
Well, this is also true, but I suspect it's probably going to be similar because I know there has been Daily Bugles surrounding stuff in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect this is probably going to be somewhat similar to that, if anything. But we will see. So yeah, that's the thing that's coming.
Next up, even Marvel's characters are sick of poorly written women. This is a reference to a book that was both of our clicks of the week. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the amazing Mary Jane #1. So we've discussed that at length, so we can move on.
Yeah, pretty much. But you should check out the book. And yeah, this article kind of goes into that. The title pretty much says enough. Forget Man-Thing. Meet Marvel's next hero, Manslaughter.
Oh, I wish I had like a groan for how corny that sounds.
I probably, because when I read it, I could have provided one right then and there because it was totally groan-inducing. However, I'll just do this.
Hey, boo! I didn't really like it.
Now, granted, we haven't seen the book yet, so
right.
I'm not.
And it's also by Ben Percy, who got me so excited for Wolverine, but I'm hesitant to be on board for this simply because of the name 1 and 2. It feels like this is like the natural evolution of the idea between let's do something that crosses Wolverine and the Hulk. You know?
You mean like Hulkverines, which you loved?
Well, I love the title. Hulk
You wanted to marry
Marines!
that book. No, I'm just kidding.
Hulk Marines!
But yeah, well, so the one thing, so you don't have to worry because it's only going to be a one shot. And it's called Weapons Plus World War IV, and it will introduce Manslaughter, a newly revealed creation, coincidentally, of the Weapons 4 program, using the same serum which turned Ted Sallis into the Man-Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's solicits for it because, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's sure. I feel like that's something they could have used of Infinity Warps or something. I don't know. Like I know Sergeant Rock is a different company, but Sergeant Rock and Man-Thing put together or something.
Right.
I mean, I guess in this case it would be Nick Fury, but whatever. Anyway, Spider-Man Hulk's out for Immortal Hulk one-shot comic. So, yeah, Spidey's turning green. He looks more like a big Ninja Turtle with Spider-Man clothes. But apparently, in January, it's going to be one shot. Written by Tom Taylor and George Molina. Sees the Hulk find a new host after ditching Bruce Banner for Peter Parker. Which I kind of want to give some credence to something that happened to a page in it has anything to do with a page from Immortal Hulk, but I doubt it. Well, while Bruce immediately thinks he's finally rid of the Hulk, the Jade Giant still lurks at night. So again, like we just said for the Man-Thing, it's two things mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. January 29th, 2020. Catch it.
All right. Speaking of something else that's supposed to debut on January 29th, 2020, Marvel has announced a new series, 5-issue series, that is going to delve back into the Old Man Logan storyline era, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be Avengers of the Wastelands. And it involves Danielle Cage wielding Mjolnir and teaming up with other characters to fight. Just to hold on. Oh, she's gonna lead an Avengers lineup consisting of Old Man Logan, Old Man Hawkeye, and Old Man Quill to fight Doctor Doom, who apparently is not Old Man Doctor Doom.
Right, but I'm sure that book will probably be coming. Now, the thing that kind of messes me about this. Now, you've been keeping score, and some of you probably haven't. Danielle Cage, daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, in a future ends up being Captain America.
Right.
So this, I don't know if, now granted, some would say, hey, parallel dimension timeline, multiverse type situation. I don't know, but as far as I remember, that Captain America thing was Prime Universe, if I'm not mistaken. So this thing right here is weird. But hey, it is what it is. It's comics, that stuff happens. So you can see the cover here, and Ed Brisson's writing it. Jonas Scarf is doing the art, and the date has already been given. I don't know. That old man stuff, I don't know. Like, I was reading Old Man Hawkeye, and that was all right. Old Man Quill, I haven't checked out, and I feel like there was something else outside of Old Man Logan that was kind of set in that era that's kind of still around, but not. But anyway, regardless, that's a thing. There you go. Next.
Oh, you got it.
Oh, yeah. Ms. Marvel looms over Marvel's Avengers and poster for Square Enix's game. So, yay! So you're watching the video, you can see the poster for Marvel's Avengers game. It's a nice looking poster. You have the Avengers, looks like the core Avengers group minus one Hawkeye. If we're going by the movie version, that is. And off to the side, you see Miss Marvel, kind of on her own, not in the shadows, but just kind of sharing half the page. It's cool.
All right.
Yeah. May 15th, folks, 2020. Catch it. Next.
In more video game news, Respawn Entertainment's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has officially gone gold ahead of the game's November release. So these are pre-sales. So good for them.
Well, so yeah, going gold meaning it's done. quote unquote done and it's ready to be pressed up and shipped out to stores physically when they do that, obviously. And also this is probably the version that's going to be physically and digitally distributed when it comes out November 15th. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's not as broken as WWE 20 as I've seen from screenshots.
I heard something about. I mean, not to.
It's bad. It
I
looks.
would say not to deviate from us wrapping up comic book news, but why is it so broken? What's the deal with that?
Well, okay, so not to get into a long rant on this, but we are in an age where video games just come out broken and they'll fix it later. Notoriously, games like WWE, like stuff that gets done on almost a on a yearly basis,
Mhm.
kind of also suffer that. Either they don't do a whole lot, but they still come out broken, or something happens. In the case of WWE, there was a little bit more to it in that the company, the developers that was doing the games all this time is no longer on it. Was basically got off of it halfway through this project, so which means that 2K had to finish it up themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was already when they were doing it, it was broken, and because the devs were trying to do their own things, but 2K wouldn't let them do it. So 2K was like, all right, you know what, you're off of this, and the company's going to do their own wrestling game. They're working on now. So basically 2K or whoever they had slaving it away had to finish it up with the old engine that the company that they were doing its engine.
Okay. So
that in itself introduced some issues, which that game was already kind of coming out broken anyway by respects, but not as broken as apparently this one is. So
is there any particular aspect that we can cite?
I mean, there's videos and people tweeting about the specific glitches that happen. In fact, I think I retweeted one where like characters would just glitch out and skill go spasmatic during the course of a match if a lot of stuff is on screen or whatnot.
Okay.
So it's kind of things like that. And like I said, the games already had issues in previous years anyway because of X, Y, and Z, but this was particularly bad.
I got you.
And like I said, it's kind of sad that we're already in a world that's like, hey, ship it and then we'll fix it later, and then people have to deal with a broken game until it gets fixed, if it ever gets fixed in a lot of cases.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, but this one's like I said, particular. Like I said, you can go seek that out. It's on Twitter. I know I definitely tweeted something or retweeted something like a day or two ago.
Right. I probably saw something, but it just
didn't know what it was.
Right, exactly. It just escaped me, and I didn't bother to click on like a video link to see what was broken.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, but it's granted, it's hilarious results, but still, it's real sad.
Right.
So anyway, Jedi Fallen Order coming out next month. Hopefully, it's not broken. Earth Wars, G.I. Joe and Cobra battled the Transformers in new trailer. So this is for Transformers Earth Wars, which is another mobile video game. They're doing an update which will add G.I. Joe vehicles. Oh, excuse me. It will add G.I. Joe vehicle versions of Soundwave, Hound, Jetfire, and Skywarp to the Tower Defense title. So it made it sound like G.I. Joe's was actually going to be in here. And actually, maybe that's the case. It says a new trailer showing the Joes and Cobra entering the fray alongside Autobots and Decepticons. So it's basically Transformers versus G.I. Joe all over again. Probably not.
That's funny.
Yeah. Next.
All right. Speaking of something else I'm not familiar with, Netflix hit Agretsuko is going to get a comic book series in February 2020. It's about an office worker who can only truly be herself singing death metal at her local karaoke bar.
Right. So basically, it's anime, and Sanrio, if you're not familiar, is Hello Kitty. Is in that same universe, and this is a character from that same universe, and it's an anime that's a bunch of people like on Netflix surrounding this particular character, not Hello Kitty. And yeah, so I've seen some people very excited about this book coming out.
Okay.
Because they like the show. So, alarms go off for Invisible Kingdom number 6 preview. So this is the book with G. Willow Wilson and Christian Ward. 6 issues in, that is coming out at the end of this month or next week to be specific. There's preview pages for that if you're so interested in this book. I know we've kind of mentioned this book like when it was first announced, but that was a few months ago. So check that out if you're so inclined. I like both of those. The creative team. Like, what can I say? Although I've not checked out this book. So next up,
a book that has been, I guess, on hiatus is going to be back with Moonshine number 13, due out November 13th. This is by 100 Bullets creative team Brian Azzarello and artist Eduardo Russo. So they're coming back with a new story arc with issue number 13, and it's going to involve the series protagonist reaching New Orleans in search of a cure for being a werewolf. And if that raises your interest, good for you.
Exactly. And there's no good transition from that except for, hey, give us another ad read.
All right. Our last ad read of the night is for My Comic Shop. Today's podcast is sponsored by My Comic Shop. Go to cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, click on the My Comic Shop banner and order from a vast selection of new releases of back issues, vintage classics, graphic novels, and more to be delivered right to your door. Why bother schlepping to the local comic book store? But you should, when you can order your books online, unless there's no local comic book store, and then this is vital for your comic book needs.
Or Comixology.
My Comic Shop through cspn.us, because you need those paper copies. Do it today.
Support your local comic shop. Again, we can't stress that enough. If you can.
There you go.
There are some places that can't. And with that, folks, we are at the end of another exciting episode of this here show. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming out. We will be back next week for this look. Well, wait.
Wait, there's movie protocol next week? I don't
No, but it's Halloween.
Oh, it actually falls on Halloween.
Yes. This year, Halloween didn't fall on a weekend, but close enough. So we, I don't know. We may or may not have a show. I don't know. We'll talk about it. So you can check us out on our individual Twitters to find out whether we're going to have a show that night or not. I'm fairly certain I don't have any plans, but we'll see. So for that information, you can go to my Twitter, Radicat at Twitter. That is me. Newsnerds Need on Twitter. That is also me. CB Caps on Instagram. That is also me. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Still doing this Inktober stuff. Go check him out on Instagram.
Yep.
PC_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Pop Culture Network. DirtNetwork.com and all of his umbrella sites therein. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter. That is the Comic Book Chronicles podcast account, which hopefully is being updated. I don't really know. Need to really check on that. The KLIQ Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQ NATION, and the KLIQNation.com, which is another site that I need to talk to him about, so we can probably update some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. Go give that man some clicks, read the stuff. He does some good work over there. We are a part of the Cold Slither Podcast Network. You can go check us out and other podcasts at cspn.us.
Do it today.
We are also on Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, also Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And again, like I said, we may possibly be back next week. Stay tuned to the Twitters. We'll let you know where that goes. But if we don't have a show, happy Halloween. Be safe out there, because I think people are doing something. Have been doing something this week tonight. I don't know. It was weird from what people have been telling me. I don't know. Regardless, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, folks. Peace.
We out.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Good evening, friend. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your line?
Oh, you insulting son in my
Wolverine.